The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
This is Speedball Mike Bailey. You're listening to Keepin It Strong Style. Yes.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out in Barrio the Frost. From Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ASA podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll review Fighting Spirit Unleashed, preview World Tag League, and cover all this news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Chop Tea store, chop-tees.com/KI Strong Style. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style merchandise. There's free shipping on every order and 10% off your first order, chop-tees.com/KI Strong Style, also /Social Suplex to get all the merch from the network. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. And we are streaming live right now on patreon.com/KI Strong Style for IWGP subscribers. If you want access to our weekly video live stream, ad-free audio, and bonus content, subscribe at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. Young boy, how you doing, man?
We are live. We have a new setup. And luckily this week, not as many technical snafus. I won't bore everybody with it, but this is it's a first for me. So if we run into any sort of technical difficulties, just know we're figuring it out. You probably heard at the beginning of the episode that our Chop Tees, it's all free delivery right now. So you might want to take advantage of that because if these tariffs take place, we've already been kind of warned that that shit might be out the window. So get your order in now before there's any sort of exchange rate issues that cause the cost of goods to go up.
Yeah, definitely get those orders in. Chop-Tees, quick, fast shipping around the world. So regardless of where you are, we can get a t-shirt out to you. So definitely you want to get those orders in before these tariffs come in and affect the shipping rates and all that good stuff.
Yeah, but other than that, doing well, man. It's been a crazy day at work, crazy week, and glad to be here talking some New Japan wrestling.
Nice. Well, we're pretty much on the road to the Tokyo Dome. Got lots to talk about this week. We're going to start off the show by talking about World Tag League, which means that we are very near for our grading period to be over for our year in awards.
Not ready for it.
So if you're new to our show, every year since we started the podcast, we've been doing our own year-end awards, our grading periods. It starts after World Tag League and then ends right when World Tag League starts. So we'll put out, a Google form ballot. You can vote on different categories that Josh and I put together with different nominees. So the grading period's going to end. Historic Crossover will be the last show. Part of this year's grading period, and then we'll start working on the ballot, getting the nominees out there, and then we'll be blasting it out on social.
Yeah, absolutely. And we look forward to this every single year. It's a very exciting time, and it's a chance for you guys to let your voices be heard. What did Rambo say?
Rambo says Dave Finlay for Wrestler of the Year. ... America loves a bully, apparently.
I don't think that there's any way that we could do Wrestler of the Year and not include David Finlay as a nominee, to be honest with you. So
yeah, as I was going through, because I've started like looking at the categories of nominees already and trying to get the spreadsheet organized for this year. And I'm like, looking through the year, I'm like, Dave Finlay, he's a lock as a nominee. Also, I'm not saying he's going to win, but he is a lock as a nominee for Wrestler of the Year.
I kind of think Doki's a lock for Wrestler of the Year.
Really?
As a nominee?
Yeah.
Match quality?
Yeah.
Have you not thought of that?
I know. I mean, I had him slotted in for Junior of the Year. Rambo says just an insane thought a couple years ago, but he deserves it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree there. So we are going to be working on that. Jeremy's already started to do some work, and I guess I need to catch up and contribute, which is the story of this show. But we're excited for it. And, it's a labor of love, and we love to be able to put that out and hear what you guys thought about the year. This is I think that this is going to be one of the most difficult to predict years when it comes to the voting, probably since 2020, when the pandemic first took off and everything was kind of haywire that year as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting as I started looking at some of the nominees. I'm like, I think there are some categories where every year where there's always one category where it's pretty cut and dry. Like I kind of know what to expect, but then, match of the year, like, normally we're pretty strict on what makes a cut for match of the year. And usually it's like, 4.75. It's like the cutoff, but this was a good year, but I don't think there was a ton of matches that really went above and beyond that 4 3/4, 5-star level. So there might be some 4.5s that kind of slide through this year.
I'll be honest though, I'm okay if it's more quality than quantity. If I'm being completely honest, if there's something that, generally speaking was, by consensus rated in the 4.5 range, and you and I feel strongly that it deserves a greater consideration, then yeah, we'll put it through. But I'm okay if we don't have anything like that. You know what I mean? Like we don't have to have 10 nominees to have 10 nominees. Like if you look back at our early years of the awards that's the crazy thing. In 2017 and like 2018, we had less match of the year nominees when we probably like shortchanged some G1 matches for sure that like could have easily been nominated. So it is what it is. And, it'll be really interesting to see how all that turns out. Yeah. Match of the year. I don't know. There's some really great candidates, so we'll find out.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about World Tag League. So we got the teams announced last week. So World Tag League 2024.
And Jeremy, I just have to let you know, and I've already stated this to you before the show started, but I'll let the people at home know. So I'm literally recording off the phone, and I usually rely on the phone to, be my guide. We have a layout, information, you can reference it, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, anyone that's on the live stream can see behind me there's a computer. That's my work computer. And this is the first time we're doing this. I didn't want to be turned like doing that while we're doing this. So I'm basically raw dogging this episode. Like there might be times where I ask you to repeat something or whatever, but like I'm going to have to rely on my noggin to remember all these teams and everything. And Jeremy, you're gonna have to guide me through,
Yeah. Well, I got you, man. So World Tag League is going to start next Tuesday, November 19th, and we'll run through Sunday, December 8th. The tournament consists of 15 events that will air live on New Japan World. So we'll go through each block, kind of give their tournament history, and then maybe we can give any thoughts about each team and maybe their chances of winning the league. So we'll
Do we
start.
have any SAMHSA stats?
No, I don't have any SAMHSA stats. I just kind of have the history of each team in the league.
Chris, when you're doing your research for Walker and for Charlton, maybe send us a little sheet, make us look good.
Yeah, Chris should send a little email.
We'll shout you out on the show. There's no worries about that. Don't worry, you'll get you'll get the credit.
So start in the A block here. So first team, Bishamon, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi. This is their 6th entry 5th consecutive. They won the league in 2021, 2022, and 2023. So potential here to be a four-peat. We had some questions here from Meme Machine. Yee says, will Bishamon achieve the four-peat? And our buddy Howard Schilling says, Bishamon is totally winning this again, aren't they?
I don't know about that. But I wouldn't put it like a non-positive percentage when it comes to that. Considering the field, as crazy as it sounds, they could win this tournament. I don't know. I mean, for me, I'm just kind of thinking in terms of the dome, right? And I'm number one. I mean, you always have to consider like what's a matchup at the end of the tournament that you could see, you know, two teams from each block, you know, finaling, and Bishamon's always going to be one of the potential people that could go to those finals. But then when you kind of consider if in fact, and we might not even get a straight one-on-one tag team match in the dome, but you know, we're already doing the four-way for the juniors. It's not impossible that we get a multi-team match for the heavyweights, but they typically try to do, you know, like not overload it with multi-man tag team matches in the dome. So assuming we're getting a one-on-one, you know, team versus team match, you have to kind of consider who in fact would be marketable to go up against the United Kingdom, meaning, you know, Great Okan and Hanare.
United Empire.
And I could see Bishamon. Oh, I'm sorry. What did I say?
United Kingdom.
My bad. Yeah. Is that even a team?
There's the Undisputed Kingdom in AEW.
That's what I'm. Yeah, bro. My day has been crazy. But yeah, United Empire. So you kind of have to consider like what team could you see in the dome going up against that team, and I think Bishamon easily could fit that bill.
Yeah, and as we go through the rest of these teams, I think it'll become very clear that Bishamon is definitely a front runner to win this thing. Again, like you mentioned, obviously Dome experience. They've won the league 3 years in a row now, been in that Tokyo Dome title match. Have kind of become the staple. They've become that homegrown Japanese tag team that's kind of always in the big spots. And, you know, Hiroki Goto had a great year this year in the singles realm with the New Japan Cup final. Great stuff in the G1, challenging Dave Finlay for the global title a couple months ago. So, you know, he's had a great year, and I think, you know, they usually try to reward guys like that. And so I think that, you know, they'll probably want a dome spot for Goto, and what better spot to put him in. You know, we're seeing a lot of the other singles pictures kind of being taken right now. So I think it'll make a ton of sense if you want Goto on the card that you put him in Yoshihashi in the title match and win the league.
Yeah, and it also kind of makes, as the dome matches are starting and those slots are starting to fill up, it's kind of making me reconsider, could it be a multi-man tag match for these titles as well, just to kind of get more bodies, you know, on the card? Is that a possibility? And if that is the case, you would have to imagine that Bishamon would likely be involved in a scenario that if that were to play out.
Yeah, I think the door is always open for a multi-man when it comes to both tag team titles. Obviously, we're seeing that coming up with the junior titles, the four-way already set for that. I don't think we've always seen a ton of multi-mans for the heavyweight tag team titles, but I wouldn't throw it against them.
I always think of that one Wrestle Kingdom, I think it was 11 match where everyone was cursing and throwing lariats. I don't remember, Makabe was in there and God. Yeah, it was a fucking funny match, but I'm not sure. You know, we'll see what it. One thing I'm a little surprised at is, like, you know, is it a sign of bad booking when, you know, you've got this team, they've been dominant, but they haven't had these strong. It's not like this year has been completely the story of Bishamon. You know, that they did have a title run and everything, but they kind of focused more on singles runs than they did the tag team efforts, like you mentioned. And all the while, with so many different stars leaving the company and guys getting reestablished, like, they didn't do a great job building a lot of permanent teams. And we're going to talk about that through the course of this tournament. But I think the fact that we're talking about Bishamon being a front runner to potentially win the tournament again, when how likely is it that anybody's going to win 4 times in a row? Like now you're getting to Inoki type territory. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
or Masahiro Chono. Like, how many guys have ever dominated a tournament this thoroughly in the history of New Japan? It's like almost never. But the reason why it's so probable is even though the tournament is interesting, there's a lot of great angles. We'll explore them. There's just not a lot of strong teams that we can point to. That's like, they could go to the Dome.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, they kind of by default, they are like one of the best teams to go through.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a testament to them, but it's also a detriment to the booking because they had a year and they've had multiple years. And, you know, as strong as like, say, the junior tag division has been, I mean, it's so strong that like some people are complaining about the 4-way in the Dome. We are not, even though like, yeah, the logic is there that it does negate the purpose of the tournament to have guys that didn't win the Super Junior Tag League still get to that match. But at the end of the day, we're looking at it like, yeah, I mean, those are 4 deserving teams that like had a hell of a year and probably all deserve a spot. And it's going to be a exciting match. And on the flip side, we're looking at the heavyweight World Tag League. We're like, I don't know. There's like 2, maybe 3 teams that could win this shit.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's the same old, you know?
Yeah. And a lot of questionable teams in here. We'll get to it. So let's talk about the next team here in the A block. From the Bullet Club, Kenta and Chase Owens, their second entry, second consecutive.
They held the World Tag Team titles this year.
I don't even remember that, to be honest.
That was them, right?
I think it was earlier in the year. Hold on, let me...
Right? Like, am I wrong in this?
I think you're right. I don't remember. Well, let's see. IWGP Tag Team Championship.
I know Chase Owens held the titles one time with Fale years ago, and then I think this year it was him and Kenta.
Let's see. I'm getting to the title history here. So let's see. Scrolling down. So
like I didn't this was a fever dream. I didn't just imagine.
No,
this.
you're right. So they won the titles in New Beginning in Osaka. They beat GOD 2.0. Then they dropped it back to Bishamon, and then they won it back from Bishamon at Dontaku, and then they dropped it to Nichols and Haste.
Bro, they're one of the top teams of the year.
They were champions twice this year, and I didn't even remember.
Oh my God. So, I mean, listen, there have been plenty of tournament World Tag, like, you know, World Tag League has a bad rap, right? And it's not even, we're not going to sit here and be like, it's undeserved. No, it's deserved. And there are teams like this that, you know, I don't think every match is going to be horrible. I mean, it depends on what your taste is and how much you can kind of stomach more Chase Owens and Kenta. But at the end of the day, they're going to have they're going to go out there and have decent performances, but it's going to be the same shit every night. And they're not going to work super hard, but they're still going to pick up a lot of wins because they're one of the only really quasi-established teams in the tournament. And it's not, again, just like Bishamon, it's not an entirely impossible idea that they like final potentially. I'm not saying they should or that it's, you know, likely, but compared to some of the other teams, just given their history and it's Kenta, like they could final.
Yeah. And, you know, something else you brought up with, you know, them having experience. When I look at the rest of the A block, like all the other teams are debut teams. So from the A block, Bishamon and Kenta and Chase are the only teams that have experience, that have teamed up together and have experience being in this World Tag League. Then also, too, another thing that helps both these teams, and pretty much all the teams in the A block, the champions, Okan and Hanare, are in the B block. So traditionally, you have the winner coming out the opposite block of the champions, and I don't think they're doing a semifinal format this year. I think it's going to be at the top point getter from A versus top point getter from B, and that's your finals. So I think that really strengthens the chances of an A block winner. So I think that also strengthens the chance of Bishamon or Chase and Kenta here.
I don't know, Jeremy. That didn't work out so hot for you during the G1 this year.
Well, G1's a little bit different. They did all kinds of, playoffs, and they sent 6 people through. This is your, normal, just top A, top B in the finals.
I don't need to hear your Gaga excuses. I need to hear an apology. Is what I need the apology to be as loud as the insult. That's what I need. Or what the fuck did he say? I can't remember.
Louder than disrespect.
Yeah, as loud as the disrespect,
Oh, man. So, I'm not really excited to see 2024 Kenta and Chase Owens teaming up in this league. I don't expect, any great matches from them. But like you said, they're an established team. They're champions twice this year. I could see a lot of low blows, a lot of, dust in the face, powder in the face, and these guys stealing a lot of wins.
Yeah, it's going to be more of your classic underhanded heel tax, not your overt, over the top plunder that you're going to get with House of Torture, but it's not that far removed from it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one notch below what you're going to see with some of the House of Torture shit in the same tournament. One thing and maybe this is a good point to kind of bring this up. There are other things they could have done in this tournament, and what we've seen a lot of, like you said, first time teams, but they have included a lot of the singles guys that are champions that already have title matches or singles matches already set for the Dome, which they used to do that back in the day. And that's fine because there is a logic there that this tournament in kayfabe is prestigious enough to where like a never champion who has to defend their title might be willing to try and pull double duty to win the tag title. So that's cool. You're going to get some good preview matches out of it through the course of this. And it does provide a good build for Wrestle Kingdom. The problem is they're really not capitalizing on some of the opportunities that were on the table here. Like some of the young guys that could have been partnered up with veterans that's not happening. There's like almost no young lions in here. There are partner promotions in the UK, in Mexico, with AEW, and even domestically in Japan, where they could have outsourced and brought, or even Australia. I mean, there is an Australian team coming in, but they really could have brought in more established tag teams if that's what they were wanting to do. I think that might have been a positive. And there's a lot of guys that are exciting that are not slotted for Wrestle Kingdom or Wrestle Dynasty just yet that could have been mishmashed and more logically put together in this tournament. And instead we've seen a lot of like telegraphing where you just look at a team and you're like, they're not going to win as cool as the team is because they've got singles champions on there. And like, we just know for a fact that like, that's not happening. They're not going to work 2 times in the Dome and then, a second time the next night. Like, it's just not happening. So I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunities here.
Yeah, and I think that kind of lends right into the next team. So we have the number 1 contender for the IWGP World Title at Wrestle Kingdom. The guy's going to be facing Zack Sabre Jr. The Roughneck, Shota Umino, he'll be teaming up with Tomoyuka Honma in this league.
Yeah, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with having some of the old timers in here. You do kind of have to wonder where some of the other old timers are. Like, is Kojima in this tournament?
He is not.
Okay, so there's no Kojima, there's no Nagata. I know we haven't really seen Suzuki this year almost at all, and he's basically a non-factor in New Japan at this point, but he could have shown up. Those are guys that are marketable, that have meaning, and there is something to be said for including them if it made logical sense. But Hanma is a guy that like, it's a no-hoper. Shota Umino, he's going to get some reps and everything like that. But at the end of the day, his whole story arc is challenging for that title. So like Hanma's there to be the pin eater. It'll be great when we see him and Zach have some preview matches and maybe that, continues to tell a story moving forward. But end of the day, this is just one of those teams where you're like, I don't need to see them in here necessarily. Like, it's a no-hoper entirely.
Yeah, and we had a question here on the chat from Rambones. And when is the last time a world title challenger was tag teaming with Hanma in World Tag League? Seems like a mismatch. And yeah, I mean, I don't know when the last time was, but I mean, I have a problem with this team because Umino, it's set, it's official. He's going to the Tokyo Dome to face Zack Sabre Jr., and they stick him here with Hanma. Clearly, Hanma is going to be eating a lot of pins. It's going to be a losing team. And, you know, we already complained about how Umino feels cold going into this Tokyo Dome main event. And what do? You stick him with Hanma. He's going to be in a losing team. Like, this team has no chance of advancing in the league. They're not going to win because Umino's already facing Zack January 4th. And then B, he's with Hanma, a guy who's going to be eating a lot of pins. So I think they're kind of setting up Umino to fail here with teaming him with Hanma, going into having the world title match, because he's going to come in with like no momentum, like losing a bunch of tag team matches. Sure, he might not be the one getting pinned, but it's going to look like he's a loser kind of coming into the Tokyo Dome.
Who's Shingo teaming with?
Yota Tsuji.
Okay. So like I didn't want to say that was the case, but I thought it was. So, I mean, you look at that team and that's a cool team. Obviously, we'll get to them. They're not going to win, but like that's at least a team up that you can get excited about. You would hope that Shota Umino would have somebody that could be equally exciting and at least get some shine on them. And like maybe they go 500-600 or something like that. But like you mentioned with Hanma, they're going to be losing like quite a bit. I would almost rather that like the IWGB champion and title challenger were just in preview matches on the tour in select spots than actually maybe in the tournament.
Yeah. And Rambo says Shota hasn't done himself any favors, but his booking has been setting him up to fail all year. And that's something we've pointed out. Like, they have not set this guy up. And sure, you know, there's been some backstage stuff that's happened, but when you look at the booking, they have not set this guy up to have a great year or to be somebody that looks like a Tokyo Dome challenger. And so, yeah, sticking here with Hanma, I totally agree with you. They did this in Junior Tag League. We just saw it where, you know, Zack and Shingo were in preview tags on selected nights during the Junior Tag League tour. And then they got their, you know, title match at Power Struggle. And they could have the same thing here. Like, you know, you do your semi-main event, preview tag, you know, Zack and Oiwa versus Umino and Hanma, your preview tag, whatever, and do that select night to the tour. You're building heat with Zack and Umino. You're getting the preview of the matchup and trying to add some heat to this program because it's a cold challenger. And I know that I'm looking at it at a Western perspective. I don't know fully how the Japanese fans feel. I mean, we have been hearing the boos, and it sounds like it's coming from more of the male audience in Japan, where a lot of the women and children are still behind Umino, but he's kind of getting into that almost that Cena split in Japan, but he's not as over as Cena was when that split was happening here. And then from the Western side of things, I think pretty much most New Japan fans are not thrilled in the West with seeing Umino challenge.
Yeah, and I mean there were different feelings about him, not by everybody. I don't want to treat fans like a monolith, but the general consensus going into the G1 this year and even prior to that was much different. And since then, it's been, you know, a steady downhill slope. I do wonder, like, you know, maybe there is a testament. We've complained in the past, like we've kind of wondered, you know, with Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty both happening, how are they going to do the builds for them? The way that the schedule's laid out, it's very precarious. And then suddenly, like, boom, 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 we're hot shotting a lot of stuff. So I'm wondering if the idea here for this tour is provide a stronger build to get some more fan investment with some of these programs that have been, you know, hot shotted just a slight bit. Or could it be that like they're worried about the business of the tour and they're putting some of these bigger stars on there to bolster the numbers and hopefully, you know, because I know last year they didn't have a great fourth quarter. You know, they were down in December, and maybe that's the and maybe it's a little bit of both. I don't know, but I feel like potentially that's the motivation behind having some of these bigger stars just involved to sell more tickets, you know?
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the next team, another debut team here. Jeff Cobb and the Prince of Pace, Callum Newman, teaming up here in the A block.
Now, this is a team that I'm not opposed to because Callum Newman is sort of in the mold of what I had mentioned earlier. Like, this is his first time in tag league. He's a young guy. You want him to get the reps, get the experience. And yeah, Jeff Cobb is challenging for a singles title. So you kind of already know what his date for the Dome is. I don't expect this to be a team that, does super well, but they'll pick up wins. And, Callum Newman's there to be the pin eater essentially. And again, this is another team where the focus will be on experience for Callum Newman, but previewing the title challenge for the TV title that Jeff Cobb is going after.
Yeah, and here's a team where I could see them, like you were mentioning earlier about some other teams, going 500, having maybe like a 5-4 record, 4-5 record, a pretty decent record for a debut team in the league. And yeah, also we know that Cobb is going to be in that three-way match for the TV title against Ren Narita and Roy Oiwa. So yeah, the chances of them actually winning the league go down. And I guess one thing we do got to consider is that there is Wrestle Dynasty the next night on January 5th, also in the Tokyo Dome. So I guess hypothetically, like if somebody that's already booked for January 4th wins the tag league, I guess they could opt to have their tag team title match the next night, January 5th at Wrestle Dynasty. So I guess that possibility is out there, but I think it is unrealistic that somebody like Cobb, who has a TV title match set the Dome, is actually going to end up winning this thing. But yeah, I like the team of him and Newman. It's kind of your traditional, big man, kind of fast guy team up. So I expect to see some cool combos from them. Cobb throwing people around, Newman flipping on people. So they should be a very fun team to watch, and you get your United Empire representation in the A block. So
I wasn't here, but I agree with all of that.
Moving on to the next team, we have Alex Zane and a mystery partner. So no Monster Sauce, no Lance Archer. Archer is now a part of the Don Callis family. He's teaming up with Brian Cage. They are squashing people right now and being built up as a new kind of monster tag team in AEW. So that leaves Alex Zane to find a new partner. And with a question from Mean Machine, who do you guys think will be Zane's partner?
Bro, I have no idea. MJ Does PR reached out to me privately after some of the comments we made last week on the show, and he was like, didn't Zane team up with El Lindemann one junior tag, and like El Lindemann had red hair, and I was like, sounds right. I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember that either.
So it's like I mentioned him teaming with Ace Austin prior, and it looks like he's had a couple different junior tag team members during those types of tours, but they have an X. I think it's strange that there's an X. I'm wondering, like, is it a surprise that's going to actually be enticing, that we're excited about? Could it be that they don't know who it is and they're still trying to
they're making some calls right as we speak?
Yeah, like if they're still like finalizing some details, like it's X, you're not gonna believe it. Or is it someone who has the name X in their name? Because multiple times now they've like said that X is coming and then the person actually has the letter X in their name. So like, is that a telltale? I don't know. Well, like, I don't even know who his buddies are, like on the indies and in other wrestling promotions that he's worked for. So I couldn't even begin to speculate, but I am disappointed it's not Archer.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Monster Sauce is a great tag team. Rainbow saying Cage and Archer would have been pretty awesome in World Tag League. Yeah, I would have loved if they had brought Cage and Archer over. But yeah, I think I am going to miss Archer on the tour. I feel like Monster Sauce was a really great tag team that they kind of randomly put together, but they gelled, had a great chemistry, and we've seen them in a couple tag leagues and some New Japan Strong shows. And yeah, I thought it was a great team, but also you have Archer, who is an AEW contracted guy, and Zane, who's kind of a freelancer and independent guy. And so, obviously plans different bookings, different companies. So yeah, that team can't.
Tony Khan fucking up my life again.
So yeah, so no Monster Sauce, no Archer. But yeah, I have no idea who this Zayn partner could be. I mean, obviously Zayn wrestles in GCW a lot. I have a hard time seeing it, being any of the GCW guys.
Could it be Blake Christian?
Maybe. I don't think he actually is he. I don't know if he's one of these new WWE ID people or not, but
yeah, we haven't even talked about that. Like, what the fuck?
But yeah, I mean, I guess he could potentially be the partner, but he's kind of pushing the junior though.
Yeah, I know, but like, I don't know. I think he was trying to put on size and stuff like that. So I don't really know. I mean, those guys have been they're like frenemies. They like have a running rivalry, but then sometimes they're together. I wonder, I think one of the positives that it could be hypothetically is, of course it could be someone from the outside, and that's probably what a lot of people are hoping for, is like someone to inject some new life. But I'm gonna throw out a speculation. What if it's somebody within New Japan that's already there, and the twist isn't that the person is a surprise. The twist is like the alignment for Alex Zane, that he's joining more solidly one of these factions,
Yeah, that definitely could be it. I want to throw one out there. What if it's Shima? Because I feel like Zane's done some great stuff, and like you mentioned, there was that connection with El Lindemann in the past before. I wonder if somebody like Shima could come in again.
Shima's cool, it is what it is. I don't know if I'd be like super jazzed, but I don't know if there is a name that you could throw in there where I'm going to be gung-ho one way or the other. So I hope it's something cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think, but I do know this. They're not winning, most likely, unless it's something that we just haven't thought about at all. And then it throws us for left field, and it's like, oh, what a fucking incredible tag team. And then, they win, but I don't see it right now.
Same. So moving on, we have another debut team, the team of the never open weight champion, the Dragon, Shingo Takagi, and the number one contender for the global title, the Gene Blast, Yota Tsuji.
And this is a team where I would say they don't really have a good chance of winning based on their current trajectory for the Tokyo Dome. But last year, prior to some like last minute booking changes when it came to Tama Tonga and Shingo, it seemed like these guys were going to team in the tournament, and we wanted them to win or be a finalist, and it didn't work out that way. Now we're getting them. The team's going to be awesome, and I'm sure they're going to win a good deal of matches, but at the same time, they're kind of put in a precarious position because they both have big singles matches coming up. There's no way they're going to win the block. So they're probably going to be one of the teams that does really well, but mathematically gets eliminated in down the stretch by, losing a singles match to whoever the winners are. So I would say whatever team beats them in the block, there's a good chance that is a telltale sign that person might be that team might be winning the block. And it's going to be interesting to see how they handle those losses, because one guy's a champion, the other guy is challenging for a secondary title, that's a little bit higher up than never. And I don't know how they're going to handle that. That's a booking minefield.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing like the Umino situation. Like, yeah, you don't want these guys eating a bunch of losses going into their Tokyo Dome matches. And just looking on paper, you would probably say maybe Tsuji's a pin eater since Shingo's a champion and Tsuji's less experienced. But, if somebody pins Tsuji, do they now have a claim to like shoehorn themselves in the global title match? If somebody pins
challenging for the white belt, man, I don't know.
Yeah, and if somebody pins Shingo, like, do they try to shoehorn themselves into the now announced never open weight title match? So yeah,
I think when you have situations like this too, when there are guys that can't necessarily lose or shouldn't be losing, it creates scenarios where you are more likely to see double countouts, double disqualifications, countouts in general, no contests, time limit draws. Not that those things don't happen, but they're fairly rare in this tournament. And I think that there's a good chance we see more of that, just considering who's in the tournament itself.
Yeah, or, just even more cheating. Obviously, we have some Bullet Club teams in this block. So, I could see like Kenta, low blowing Tsuji and rolling him up. And it's like, well, clearly like Tsuji would have won had they not cheat. And so you kind of give an excuse and they take the loss, but there's kind of a excuse there for why they lost. And they don't end up, you don't have to push them that hard.
Great point. Yeah.
So the next team here is Zack Sabre Jr., the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, teaming up with Rei Oiwa, who will be in that 3-way TV title match come January 4th.
Great team. I'm excited that Oiwa's back. Obviously him and Jeff Cobb are both angling for the TV title. Is Ren Narita also in this block?
He is not.
Okay. So, there is a element where both guys are challenging for that title, but the champion's not in the block. So I'm sure we'll see those two guys face off a little bit. Obviously Zach has the title defense coming up with Shota Umino that we've talked about, and under different circumstances, if Zach wasn't the world champion, I'd be a little bit more gung-ho about this team. Zach is always welcome in my book when it comes to World Tag League. I've always loved his teams, especially, with like Suzuki in the past and Taichi. But ultimately, again, it falls prey to that idea that he's the champion and they're not going to win the tournament, which is why a lot of people for a long time always lamented having these singles champions in the tournament, because it was just very much, known that like, hey, they're already booked for the Dome. Like there's no way it's showing the cards. I'm a little torn on it because on the one hand, it adds star power. And like I mentioned, there's a kayfabe reason for it, adds a little prestige to the tournament, but you know what the deal is, right? And who's to say that the element for, these are hard tours, this many tag matches night after night. We had GOD 2.0 on the show last year before, they split and went their separate ways. And they talked about how difficult this tour is night after night. It's rigorous. And for a guy like Zach, who's getting ready for the Dome, there's always the chance for injury. There's always the chance for, just overload for having to work that many nights. So there's also the potential that these guys need to protect themselves, and they're not really going out there and giving it their all night after night because they've got to preserve themselves for January.
Yeah. And I think we run into a lot of the issues that we've been talking about with this team as well. Both guys having Dome matches, one being a champion, one being a challenger. And again, it's like, all right, how do you book this? Because again, you don't want Zach to go in looking as a weak champion. There are people already questioning his drawing ability with some low houses with him in the main event. There are already people questioning this whole main event with Umino. So I would think you would want him to look as strong as possible going into that show. So again, it's like, how many losses do they eat? Oiwa's there. He'll probably be the one getting pinned most of the time. But again, then he's in the 3-way. Like, you want to make him look credible to potentially win the TV title. So yeah, I'm very curious to see how they're going to book this and kind of get around making people look weak here.
The counter argument, though, is like, from a fan perspective, I mentioned at the start of the show that I would love to see more young lions and young guys and underutilized talents be showcased in this tournament, and then also utilizing outside tag teams. But it's like, bringing in tag teams internationally costs money, so there's that part of it. And then it's like, the types of guys that I'm mentioning that should be on the tour don't sell tickets, and we don't know what the financials necessarily look like here. So it's a double-edged sword, because they're probably, again, trying to be marketable all at the same time while, still having to book a tournament that's entertaining. And it's probably difficult to do both of all of those things,
Yeah. So the last team here, another debut team, the NJPW Strong Openweight Champion, War Ready Gabe Kidd, teaming up with Sonata, representing the Bullet Club War Dogs.
Yeah, so we're going to get a lot of questions answered with this team. Do we know right now? Do we know if Gabe Kidd and Kenny Omega are booked for 1-4 or 1-5?
As of right now, there has not been an official announcement for their matchup.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, hypothetically, if the Kenny match is happening on 1-5, which I'm kind of leaning that it might need to be just because it's an AEW co-branded thing, there's a good chance that this could be the winning team out of this tournament, out of this block, or even a finalist team, just given the names. Gabe is a champion, but he's not defending that belt in any program for Wrestle Kingdom. Sonata, a guy that headlined the Dome last year, he's a big name. We've talked about his pedigree when it comes to tag team wrestling, and he just turned. They've got a fresh look. They've bleach blonded his hair. And, Gabe has always kind of been earmarked to do well in the tag team division. It's just he's lost his last two partners. At the start of the year, it was him and Coughlin. Coughlin had to retire due to health-related reasons. And then, it was supposed to be him and Gabe Kidd, or him and Jake Lee. And, that, Jake Lee unfortunately got injured. Now he's teamed with Sonata. And we've never seen them teamed before, but given the power of those names and given the lack of trajectory to the Dome, if I had to pick a team right now in the A block that's my favorite to go to the finals or win, that's the team.
Yeah, they definitely have very good chances of winning here, being a debut team. Like you mentioned, Sonata's a guy that is going to get a Tokyo Dome spot in one way or the other. I mean, the only way they don't win is if there are plans to do Sonata versus Taichi at the Tokyo Dome in a singles match. Which, if that's the plan, then that will be maybe why they don't win. Or if the Kenny match does end up being 1-4, then that's why they won't win. But if the Kenny match is 1-5 and they're not doing Sonata Taichi match right away, this is a very strong team to win. Like mentioned, Sonata, we've always praised him as a tag team wrestler. Him and Evil as a team, and anytime he's in tag team action, we've seen him and Yuya and just 5 guys. He teams with multiple other people in LIJ sometimes too. So he's a good kind of hand to have in here. I don't know how his wrestling style is going to change with him being a heel now. So he's just going to be doing more kind of cheating. We'll see how that plays out. But as far as kind of name power, former champion, a guy that's always pushed, I think this is a great ticket for Gabe Kidd to kind of be locked in for Wrestle Kingdom, teaming with Sonata here.
Yeah, there's a lot of unanswered questions about how Sonata as a personality is going to fit in with the War Dogs. We talked about, I mentioned his new look with the bleach blonde hair and everything, but that was on a Road 2 show that was not aired. Just some of the photos came out. So we haven't seen their antics. We haven't seen what the persona is. Is he going to just revert back to more of the Cold Skull sort of thing? Or are they going to bring out a new side of his personality? How is he going to fit in with the boisterous War Dogs? There's also the angle where a lot of people think that there could be tension between these two guys, considering they're both of them are almost competing with one another within the same faction for, their standing within that group and within the hierarchy of the company. And maybe I'm off the mark. Maybe they're not going to do super well, but that this is going to be some sort of story that could potentially catapult Gabe Kidd off into his own thing, whatever that might be, because he can't coexist. The old adage, can they coexist? Well, maybe they can't in this case, because they just brought in Sonata. He's the new kid on the block, and Gabe Kidd's spot is threatened there,
Yeah. And, another thing, too, Gabe Kidd might just be too distracted by Kenny Omega. Maybe that causes issues. He's not focusing. We'll talk about the Fighting Spirit Unleashed match, but, he's already kind of taunting Kenny during that match, doing, the whole gun pose and, calling out Kenny throughout that whole match. So that could be a thing where his sight is set on Kenny, and so now I was like, hey, man, we got a league to win here. So that could cause some issues as well.
Certainly.
Let's jump to the B block. So first team we'll talk about are
B block.
the current IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, Great Okan and Hanare. This is their third entry, third consecutive as a team.
I'm much higher on the B block as a whole, and we'll talk about why. Obviously, the tag team champions are there. You can't ever 100% discount the idea of the champions winning the tournament, but it's almost, not likely that it will ever happen. So I'm not banking on it this year being that year. This team will do really well. They're gonna work their asses off because they actually do have something to prove. Kind of making their name as the leaders in this group. And I don't know how they make their decisions for Wrestle Kingdom as to who retains, who doesn't. But these guys just won the titles, and I don't know if I'm them and I'm really trying to, gain the approval and the attention of the bookers and everything. Like I'd probably be, out there working my ass off. That way, maybe, maybe they give me the rub and I get to hold on to my belt in the Tokyo Dome potentially.
Yeah. Totally agree with you there. Yeah, I don't really see these guys winning their block, but like you said, you can't really count it out. But the chances of them winning are very slim. So I expect them to kind of be in second place and be knocked out due to some kind of tiebreaker loss here. But yeah, I think these guys, they always work hard on whatever tour they're on. So yeah, I expect some good stuff from them and kind of establishing them as a team, as champions, and then, building whatever is going to come for them in the Tokyo Dome. So following that, we have the Just Four Guys team of Taichi and Taka Michinoku.
Yeah, just 4 guys for now. We'll see. I do think it's interesting that Taichi is in the opposite block of Sonata. I almost kind of would have liked to see interactions between them. Maybe we will in some of the undercard tags. Well, actually, no, we won't because they're in separate blocks, so that's not going to work out. But, he's got Taka with him. Taka's there to eat pins. Like, the best I could probably hope to come out of this match or out of this team's run is something of note for Taichi going into the Tokyo Dome, because as of right now, there's really not anything. Another thing we have to we can't 100% discount, not that it's super important, but there is Great Okan. Yes, he's one of the reigning tag team champions, but he's also the KOPW champion. And he's going to have a final title defense going towards the end of the year for those last few Cork and Hall shows. So maybe, I'm not saying that that's what Taichi should do, but you have to wonder for a guy like him, who is more of a singles wrestler at this point, who's not slotted to do anything for the Dome right now. Maybe potentially they're not him necessarily, but people like him in this block. That might be a path to them challenging for that belt come the end of the month, potentially.
Yeah. Yeah, like you mentioned, Taka's going to eat a lot of pins here. Taka has been working super hard lately, though, wherever he goes, and, been doing some good work. So they should be a fun team to watch. But yeah, ultimately, Taka's going to eat the pins here, so I'm not sure how well this team's record is going to end up being with Taka as the partner here for Taichi.
I mean, they'll work hard. They'll probably have good matches, but I'm not expecting anything that's like world beating here.
Yeah. So following that, we got Shane Haste and Mikey Nichols from TMDK. This is also their third entry and third consecutive. They
are one of the most, impressive and dominant teams and established teams in New Japan at this current time. They just lost the tag titles. There is the opinion that many people have that the only reason they lost those belts is to establish them to be able to win the tournament and thereby challenging for those belts in the Tokyo Dome. Again, I don't think they've ever had a tag team title match in the Dome. They're perfect candidates to be that team going up against the former champions. It is interesting because they do this all the time, and it's always perplexing to me. They just wrestled one another at the, what was that, Power Struggle?
Mm-hmm.
Now they're going to fight one another in the same block. And hypothetically, if Team DK is the team to win the block and the tournament, then they're going to go to the Dome and we're going to get a trilogy and in a really short, period of time. And that's not unlike Gato to book that. We've seen that plenty of times in the past. So there's a very high possibility that that's the way they go.
Yeah, and I'm also wondering if there's some kind of multi-man at play. Like if they don't win, maybe they pin Hanare and Okan, get that win back, and then just like the teams in the Junior Tag League, being the champions allows them to slide in and make this, say, a multi-man match. They could do that so it's not another straight one-on-one rematch. But yeah, very questionable, putting them in the block with Okan and Hanare, because before we even saw the blocks, we're like, Bishamon and TMDK are probably your two favorites. So, Bishamon's in the A block. I would expect the TMDK to also potentially be in the opposite block as these guys. But yeah, here they are. And so with that, just historically, I don't know how well their chances are winning. Also, we have seen in more recent years, they've kind of, went away from the whole formula of the challenger comes from the opposite block. So yeah, they easily could have these guys win the block, and then they set up the third match in the series between them and Okan Hanare. I hope that's not the way they go, because, why would you do 3 matches so quickly, back to back to back? But it's definitely a plausible scenario.
Yeah, but if your main motivation is, I don't want to see Bishamon again in the same spot year after year after year, and you already know that the champions can't win, then maybe this is what you're rooting for, just because, you're hoping that tag team wrestling wins out the day, and this is one of the most tag team wrestlingist teams, in the company. Same time, and we'll get to it, they also just dropped the strong titles, on Friday night. So they don't get a lot of momentum behind them,
Yeah. The one thing that they do have is just this whole thing of TMDK winning tournaments this year. So obviously Zack Sabre Jr. winning the G1, Ichiban Sweet Boys winning the Junior Tag League, and Hayes and Nichols have the opportunity to kind of make things full circle and win the World Tag League. And then you kind of have all the mainstay guys in Japan winning all the tournaments.
Yeah, I saw someone freaking out online being like, Zack is defending in the Dome, blah, blah, blah. Like, how dare they take the titles off of TMDK? I'm like, it's wrestling, man. People win titles, people lose titles. Like, it's, I don't know. I think that there are fans out there that are like honed in on this idea that like they're going to dominate and hold all the belts together. And it's like, it's not a static thing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's
people win titles, people lose titles.
Yeah. I think it's that thing when factions are winning a lot. Like, people want to see, they like the visual of like a faction holding all the titles. They like that evolution. They had all the belts, or 4 horsemen, whatever. Pick your stable where they all hold the goal. People like that look. And so I think, once, Zack won the belt, and now Ichiban Sweet Boys won the league, it's like, oh, they can win the junior tag titles, and then Hayes Nichols can keep the tag team titles, and they could all have gold. So I think people just like that look of just a faction that's having all the titles. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we'll see how these guys do, but I think it's going to be interesting with them being in the same block as the champions. So, moving on, another debut team here, Tetsuya Naito and the ticking time bomb Hiromu Takahashi, representing Los Ingobernables de Japón.
Very interesting tag team, because there was the angle that took place at Power Struggle and all the other referenced history throughout the past year, and even beyond that, but at least through this calendar year, there's been the tease of something coming down the pipeline when it comes to Naito and Hiromu. Now it seems to be kind of culminating here in this tournament, which is a little strange, because usually World Tag League is a little bit of a down time for the people that are going to the Tokyo Dome in established programs to rest up and get ready. But instead, neither of these two guys have anything projected definitively for them at the Dome. Now, on the one hand, sure, could they with all the star power that's involved and everything like that, could they be a team that could win the tournament or go to the finals and then headline the dome and win the tag belt? Yeah, sure. If that's and there's been a lot of times where we think they're going to do a particular thing with the booking and then they do the total opposite. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't think they're going to do that, but maybe I'm wrong. And we're about to see, Naito and Hiromu have a world tag team title run. But what seems more likely, just given the level of star power these two guys have and the history and all the speculation, is that people are clamoring for them to have a singles match in the Tokyo Dome this year. And with the lack of major marquee matches, it seems like this tour is poised to set up that story. How is it going to play out? I'm not entirely sure. I guess we could speculate, but one way or another, whatever happens on this tour, and I don't know if it's going to be something out of mutual respect or out of a slight disagreement and bickering, or if we're going to see a split, but I think somehow, some way, we're getting Naito versus Hiromu in the Dome, maybe as the main event, maybe as the semi-main event, but it's coming out of this tour, and it's probably going to be the biggest story and the main one that you want to watch when it comes to World Tag League this year.
Yeah, I know. I've seen some people saying that they want to see these guys win the tournament, just to have that power team win and challenge for the titles and win the titles and kind of help out the tag team titles. I mean, that's all fine and good, but I think, like you mentioned, the Tokyo Dome really needs that marquee match that's going to sell for the domestic crowd. I don't think they've really put that together yet, and so I think you need that Naito Hiromu singles match to help draw and make this a Tokyo Dome, a Wrestle Kingdom level card. And so, absolutely agree with you. I think we will see the story play out in this. I don't know how it's going to play out. Maybe it's miscommunication. These guys, they team a lot in multi-mans, but they're not always just them two teaming together. So maybe there's some miscommunication, or maybe they do well and they get to the finals and they lose in the finals, and then one of them blames each other for losing in the finals or something, whatever it is. Like, I think there's going to be something that causes them to chat. Naito kind of finally accepting Hiromu's challenge, and then you get your boom. That's your Naito Hiromu match.
I could see it literally being like playful, even though some Western fans probably hear that and are thinking to themselves, like, that's not the kind of blood feud that I'd like to see headlining the Dome. But just that'd be super on brand for LIJ. Like, these two guys having some sort of playful banter, bickering, trying to outdo one another throughout the tag tour. And ultimately somehow that leads to the match. I could also see it being a resentment sort of thing. Or like you said, a miscommunication. So, there's a lot of different ways they could tell that story, and that's going to be the thing to watch for. In terms of that criticism or that wish, I get it. You want the tag team titles to mean something. You want the tag division to be meaningful. And on the one hand, is there logic that a team like this could be beneficial for the division? Sure. And in any other time of the year, I would totally be on board with them being a team to do that. But we've talked about the health of Naito. Other people disagree with me, but I don't think that he's long for this industry. We've also seen, the multiple mounting injuries that have plagued Hiromu throughout his career. And this is a match that, on the one hand, let's think about the trade-offs. They go to the Dome and they do the tag team thing. Is that beneficial for tag teams? Yes. Is it beneficial for business? Sure. Is it beneficial for Hiromu to maybe potentially dip his toes in the heavyweight sands or waters? Sure. But if you compare that to the idea of them headlining the Dome or semi-headlining the Dome, it doesn't weigh, you know what I mean? Because him going in a major heavyweight match against Naito does much more for Hiromu. It's much bigger money. It's much more marketable, and it's better business all around. So, if they want to do this tag title run, maybe we do that next May, at Don Taku or whatever the fuck. But for now, this kind of needs to lead to something major that we can actually build off of. And we don't know if we're ever going to get that singles match. They've teased it so many times over the years. It was supposed to happen at the anniversary show. If they don't do it now, who knows if it ever happens?
Yeah, but I think that they've been extra teasing it this year compared to previous years. I feel like they kind of have to do it this year. Like it's kind of set up to do it this year. So I'd be very perplexed if they don't end up doing this match at the Tokyo Dome. And yeah, I could totally see it. Like you're mentioning the whole LIJ kind of playfulness thing. I can just see like Naito, like they lose and Naito cuts a promo like in the back, like, you know, I still need to find my path to Wrestle Kingdom. And I thought it was going to be Tag League. And then Hiromu was like...
It could be that simple, literally.
Yeah, Hiromu was like, I've been challenging you for, you know, months now. Like, you had your path. It's been there the whole time. And then, like, oh, you know, you're right. Sure, why not? And then, boom, you get your match.
Yep.
So, the next team, we have the president, the ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi, teaming up with Jado as a debut team here. I think it's pretty clear that this would have been El Phantasmo teaming up with Tanahashi. You know, they were going to team at Power Struggle, and ELP officially, you know, joining Hantai. I think they were going to establish that kind of teaming with ELP and Tanahashi, but, you know, unfortunately, like we mentioned last week, ELP indefinitely out due to that cancerous tumor that was found, and getting that taken care of. So his GOD partner here, Jado, filling in for him.
This is awful. I won't repeat the points about the alternatives that could have potentially been on the table from a booking perspective, but you didn't have to completely overhaul everything in this tournament, but this is a team that just has no business being in the tournament. You want to get Tanahashi in there for, business reasons, then give him any other opponent, any other partner other than Jado. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, which young lion would you like to see team up with Tanahashi in this tournament? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, put in, Shomakato, Murashima, Daiki Nagai.
Any of them. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Like, all of them would be better than Jado in this spot, because not only are the matches going to suck, but they're going to... It's just, he's going to be eating pins. They're not going to win much. Like, this is a non-starter entirely. It kind of sucks.
Yeah, and again, the whole momentum thing is like Tanahashi's going into his second to last Wrestle Kingdom. Also, his opponent is in the block here, Evil. Like, I think you'd want Tanahashi looking strong. And clearly, again, ELP was probably the plan. So that would have been a team that would have done well. But yeah, here with Jado, like, there is no hope. I mean, I guess unless Tanahashi's, getting the wins for the team, like, I do not see them winning very many matches, if even one at all. Like, they're going to lose a lot. So, yeah, this is not going to be a great team to watch in this league.
Correct.
So, following that, we have the Natural Classics, Tom Philippe and Steve Philippe from New Japan Tamashi. So, first time in New Japan, first time in World Tag League.
Very interesting. I've seen some negative resentment about the Natural Classics being in this tournament. Maybe part, and I don't even know if it's their fault, but I think part of it is just due to that, that correlation to like the Australia scene and Fale. And I don't know. We saw some of that with the Velocities on the last tour.
And we got Caveman Ugg this year as well.
Yeah, and I just wonder if it's misplaced anger, or if there are people that are more tuned in than we are to the Australian scene, and they kind of know about cronyism that's going on with Fale and his guys. I don't know if these are his guys. I know they're on the Tamashi shows.
Well, I think they're in the Rogue Army now. I think
they could be in the Rogue Army. I mean, just because guys team up together in kayfabe, doesn't necessarily mean that they have a strong personal connection or that they endorse the wrongdoings of that person. And maybe they do. I don't know. I don't have enough personal information to say, but It is just funny how quick people are to bury these guys, and never seen them really. I have watched a couple of the Natural Classics matches on Tamashii, and my feelings were, oh, my dog is upset. Come here, little buddy. Dude, I don't know why. Like lately, he has just not wanted me to record, and he's getting upset. I'll have him come over here.
Yeah, I haven't seen these guys have a match yet. I mean, I know that they're kind of a established team on the Tamashii brand in Australia, but I haven't really seen them work yet.
My feeling, I didn't see them and say like, oh, these guys are, dynamite. They belong, on the top level, blah, blah, blah. I'm a little surprised that they're in the heavyweight tag tournament, because to me, they kind of, oh, wow, what a big yawn. I felt like they were more slotted for juniors just based off size, but that could just be my memory not serving me correctly. But I felt like they were the more polished and tailored of some of the tag teams that I saw from the Tamashii brand. That's not to say that like they're maybe on the level of, New Japan proper, but it's a good opportunity to see an outside team. I am glad that we're having someone from somewhere else that's not just, Tanahashi and fucking Jado. So I'm a bit excited. I don't expect them to do overly well unless there's something we don't know. But, I think it's good. It's a good opportunity to have an outside team to kind of get a good look at them, have them get some reps and some experience, make some connections. Like I see it as a positive thing more so than anything else. I mean, otherwise, what's the alternative? We just be mashing up like Tenkoji or something like that again,
Yeah, throwing even more random tag teams in here. So yeah, I'm fine with the Natural Classics being in it. I think it's good to bring in established tag teams. It's a world tag league. Bringing in established tag teams from across the world, I think, should be the goal. If people want to complain, they should be complaining about some of these mishmash teams, your Tanahashi and Jado and, all these other kind of random teams that are in here that normally don't team together in a 2-on-2 situation. Like that should be your complaint. Like, why aren't they bringing in more established teams in there instead of kind of throwing together some of these teams? So yeah, fine with these guys being in and looking forward to seeing what they do.
Hey, and if they suck, they suck, and we'll bury the fuck out of them. We'll have fun doing it. And if they're great, we'll sing their praises. You know how we are. We're complete. We keep it a buck on this show. You know what I mean? And I'm sure they're probably listening, and I am looking forward to them getting the opportunity. The one thing is, we've seen people try to, the old adage, grab the brass ring, and sometimes that pays off. Sometimes it doesn't. But from a fan perspective, that's what I'm looking for. Is I'm looking for a hungry team to go out there and actually do something in this tag tournament, because night in and night out, this is not looking like the most promising of tournaments right now, just given the way the booking is kind of slotted. You know what I mean? So there's an opportunity for a team to break out if they really want to.
Yeah, I mean, right now, this potentially could be the worst World Tag
League that we've yeah. It literally could be.
So second to last team in the B block, we have Toru Yano and Bolton Oleg, 2/3 of the never openweight 6-man tag team champions.
Yano and Boleg. Yano and Bolton Oleg, like you said, 2/3 of the nevers. Yano does well in this tournament. Bolton Oleg is a guy that I think that they see. Maybe they don't know what they want to do with him, and they probably don't know what they want him to be. But they probably intend for them to do well. I won't be surprised if they're one of the top block leaders, or other teams finish with like 12 or 10 points and they're like right there with like 9 or 8 or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, I can definitely see them doing well, especially as Never 6 champs, and that could potentially maybe even set up the Never 6-man match. Well, I guess Tanahashi's already booked, so I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, but there's always the Never 6-man tag team title match on on Dash, and there might be some sort of angle or something to set up here. I mean, maybe not. Maybe that's going to be more reserved for, Road to Tokyo Dome, or even the Wrestle Kingdom matches, or I don't know. What do we want to call Kingdom and Dynasty? Wrestle KD?
I guess it's called Tokyo Dome weekend. I don't know.
Yeah, the Tokyo Domes. But yeah, we'll see. But there is the potential for something like that to happen.
Yeah. Double Dome Dash.
I don't know about that, but I'm excited to see. I'm always excited to see Bolton Oleg, and I don't think we've seen too much. I mean, he was in G1 this year. I was higher on him than maybe some other people were in terms of his output, but that was a pretty protected slotting that they put him there. I think he'll be able to spread his wings a bit more. It's still a safe environment being a tag team tournament, and he's got Yano, so there's only so much time they're going to be given and everything like that. But this is a great way for him to get more reps in, and we'll see more of his growth through this tournament. And Yano's Yano. You either like the shtick or you don't.
Yeah. So then the last team to talk about here, from the House of Torture, Evil, and the NJPW World TV Champion, Ren Narita.
I'm not looking forward to seeing this team compete. There will be a lot of cheating and shenanigans. I'm glad it's the only House of Torture team realistically. And both guys have programs that are already preset. Narita's the TV champ. Evil's got Tanahashi in the Dome. There are things that could happen through the tournament to set up other angles for them beyond just those matches, but that's where the primary amount of their attention is going to be focused, meaning that it's very unlikely they'll probably do okay in the tournament, but they're very likely not going to win the block. They are in some ways in a similar position to like what I talked about with Shingo and Tsuji, where it's like both guys have stuff coming up, pretty important. They both need to be protected. How do you do that? Who wins? Who loses? Yada, yada. And, the ultimate answer is that it just creates the propensity for bullshit finishes and kind of stuff that's less meaningful, because it sort of needs to be to protect all parties involved.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be some interesting booking. And again, they are a heel team. So like I was talking about earlier with Kenta and Chase, like I expect a lot of cheating, push-up bar, garrote wires for these guys to get a lot of wins, to maybe beat some of those teams that can't be beaten in this block and to help them advance. But I do think they have a pretty strong chance in this block. Like, I could see them beating Yano and Bolton. I could see them being the Natural Classics, being Jado and Tanahashi, being Taka and Taichi. So that's like 4 or 5 wins right there. They're going to probably do pretty well. Yeah, they'll probably do pretty well. It's just given that they're both booked for the Dome, they're not, I don't see them as being a finalist, but you're absolutely right. The other funny thing is you mentioned how like with them cheating, it'll be easy for them to pick up wins that are like, kind of bullshit and don't mean anything. It works the opposite way too, where they're cheating. They're going to pick up one of those bullshit wins, and then a babyface gets the upper hand on them and like reverses a roll up into his own roll up. And then it's like, oh, they got outsmarted, but it didn't really mean anything. Yeah.
And nobody gets over that way,
Yeah.
It's going to be shit like that.
Yeah. I have some questions here. Discord Daddy says, feel like there's a lot more filler in this year's tag league than last year, which is disappointing considering how good last year's was. Why can't we have nice things?
Yeah, this tournament is all filler, no killer for sure.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to the point you mentioned earlier, them probably wanting to make sure this tour draws well. Got all the champions on there, guys that typically wouldn't be in the league if they already had a Tokyo Dome matchup. So yeah, I think it's all about drawing and making sure that they end the year well here.
And I will say this, there are shows that have occurred in the past where guys like Kenny Omega, Tanahashi, and I'm talking in the heyday of like New Japan's golden age, but like Omega, Naito, Tanahashi, Okada, they were involved in these tournaments, and there were important things that happened on the tour that got people talking, that drew attention. And, usually those types of things happen on the bigger shows. So, I haven't looked at the dates, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see some angles taking place that are somewhat meaningful to build to the Dome, which is typically not something that you see during Road to or during World Tag League. Usually, like the World Tag League is just its own insulated thing, and everything related to the Tokyo Dome is just on the back burner, and that's not really going to be the case here. That's one of the upsides.
Yeah. Next question here from Death Triangle 720. Are you guys excited about this World Tag League lineup?
No. and I think that the B block looks stronger than the A block, but I was trying to think like what matches, is there a match that I'm excited about? There's very few, honestly, and there's very few winners I could really project.
Yeah. Next question from Copper Squire. Any disappointment on the exclusion of West Coast Wrecking Crew or Lawler and Rosser for Tag League for the 100th time? Why doesn't NJPW see any value in the core NJPW strong talent, Bad Dude Tito included?
And that's another thing too. When we were talking about the opportunities to bring in guys from the outside, their own talent within the New Japan Strong brand. That's another great point. And I mean, I would love to get Filthy and Fred Rosser here for sure. That's cool. But like West Coast Wrecking Crew are like a team. They like wear the same attire. They've been teaming together for many years in the New Japan system now. And did they come over for those strong shows or not? I can't remember.
Yes, the Independence Day, July 4th and 5th shows last year, I think it was. They were on the tour, which, man, people were like, oh, well, they're finally in Japan. Maybe this is kind of the start of them coming to the World Tag League. And nope.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy when it's like, yeah, it's expensive to bring them and there's no upside. But it's like if you don't bring them and you don't give them a chance to get over and to work, then then that's just what it is, so you're kind of at fault if you don't invest. It takes money to make money. If you don't invest in the team, you don't give them the opportunities, then, you might as well shit or get off the pot at this point with them. And I'm, again, shocked that they're not brought over. I would love to say like they should go away, but like, I don't know where they would go, so for the time being, it's probably good for them to just work their strong dates when they can. But like, I do think that there is upside in West Coast Wrecking Crew. And I feel like whether it's, Shawn Michaels or Tony Khan, like someone should take notice and actually use those guys.
Yeah, I think that the usage of West Coast Wrecking Crew is baffling. Like, I mean, they were like a day one New Japan Strong team. They went through the pandemic, the TV tapings. They've been through like every era of Strong, and they have never won the Strong Tag Team titles, and they refuse to put them in the Tag League and bring them into Japan regularly. And I get it. Like you mentioned, there's budget costs, but yeah, at some point, like, why not? I mean, we saw that they've spent a lot of money bringing in Nick Nemeth and Matt Riddle and Mercedes Moné. Like, you have money to bring all those people in, but not to bring in, your people on your own roster. And I think that kind of leads to the problem with Strong, and we'll talk about it when we go into our Fighting Spirit Unleashed review. But it's another thing that kind of makes a divide between Strong and New Japan proper. You kind of have these guys that kind of live in their own little world, in their own little universe that never get to cross over. And I think the more that we see Strong guys in Japan guys on Strong, it makes it seem more like one company instead of like, oh, this is kind of like the indie version, the indie US version of New Japan. Of course, yeah, you have these guys. You have Wrestle Wrecking Crew, you have Dirty Work, you have Bad Dude Tito, you have all these guys. Yeah, they're the US guys, but they never come to Japan, and it just kind of creates this disconnect. Like, it doesn't feel like you're watching New Japan proper. It just feels like you're kind of watching this offshoot of New Japan.
I mean, I understand the rationale investing in some of those bigger names that you mentioned, because again, they have been in major leagues, and that's the idea, is that there's marketability there. They're hoping to make money, but it's like they're spending all this money for very little upside with them. Could there be some benefit for a reduced cost, investing in the talents that have been loyal and proven themselves to you on your other brands and giving them a chance? I'm not saying bring them in for every single tour, but the fact that after this many years, we can't get West Coast Wrecking Crew in the World fucking Tag League, the World Tag. Come on, dude. Like, that's embarrassing. And I mean, I love Tanahashi, but like, get Tanahashi and Jado out of there. Like, Tanahashi needs the rest. Give him the call. Book the flights. I don't see why we can't do that.
Yeah, it's just really baffling. And unfortunately, like you mentioned, like the power dynamic, like where else are they going to go? Like, I mean, I guess they could like go to Noah maybe if they really want to work Japan.
Bro, I don't know. They need to make some calls, figure out something. I don't want to say like it's one thing that does make me wonder is like Royce Nelson's from like Colorado. And I know that there's like Colorado got legalized weed. I don't know his personal, habits or anything, but like, I wonder if they're like, oh no, dude from Colorado, we're not bringing him over. Like, we already dealt with that with Masaido. Like,
they brought Riddle over.
That's true, they did, and I was a little well, that whole thing. Fuck that dude. Anyways.
Oh man. Next question from Def Triangle 720. Do you think it's a budget reason that we are having more in-house talent in the World Tag League rather than bringing in teams like West Coast Wrecking Crew and Dirty Work?
I mean, I'm not going to belabor that point. I think I've already kind of expressed my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Great question, though.
Sad Goal 8860. Who do you see winning World Tag League? So we kind of threw out some thoughts already, but
so in the A block, I'm pretty firm that the only two teams that I now, of course, I could be wrong here, but the only two teams I very likely see winning would be Bishamon or War Dogs.
Yeah.
In the B block, I'm trying to remember who all the teams were, but I see TMDK and who else?
Maybe Naito and Hiromu. Well, I think they go to the finals.
I'm gonna say no for them.
Yeah,
personally.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much TMDK because again, B block you have the champions. You have Taichi Taka, Nichols Hayes, Naito Hiromu, Tanahashi Jado, Natural Classics, Boleg and Yano, and Evil and Narita. It's got to be TMDK from that.
I don't think it's impossible that Yano and Bolton Oleg could potentially do a run, but that's like, I'm putting them in the same slot as like where I'm putting Chase Owens and Kenta, in that like, it's not impossible. They might do well, but it's not likely. But right now, the only three teams I realistically see winning come down to TMDK, Bishamon, and then War Dogs. And honestly, I think it might be War Dogs that just win this whole thing.
Yeah, they could do, War Dogs, TMDK final and kind of give the heartbreak everybody wants them to win and kind of complete this, tournament trifecta. And then they end those hopes and dreams.
And that would confirm the thing that I said last week where I'm like, how many times have we gone to the Tokyo Dome? And you kind of are wondering like, why aren't TMDK here? And either they don't show up, or if they do, they're just in the Rambo.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Me Machine E says, who do you guys have winning Takataichi versus Tanahashi Jado, assuming this will be either of these teams' only points?
Oh, God. I don't know. Ask the ace what he feels like should happen that night,
I'm gonna go Tanahashi and Jado.
I really don't know. It could be either of them, but that's a 50-50 if I ever heard of one. That's a pick 'em.
Yeah. Then Howard Chilling, what are the odds we get a 3-way or 4-way for this set of titles as well? I'm thinking champs defend against Bishamon TMDK.
It's not impossible, but I don't find that to be likely personally.
Yeah, I mean, if you are going to do a multi-man, that probably would be the one you do. United Empire, TMDK, Bishamon. I think the door is open for a 3 or 4-way, but I think they'll probably just end up doing a straight-up tag team match. All right, well, that's it for World Tag League. Like I mentioned, that tournament starts next Tuesday, so we'll preview more of the upcoming cards next week when we record. Let's jump into our review of Fighting Spirit Unleashed. So this show happened this past Friday, November 8th, from the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. We had
I'm going to allow you to, I know that everyone wants to know my thoughts on the Strong Survivor match, but I'm going to leave it to you, and I'll be right back to rejoin in this review.
All right. So we had an attendance here of 1,022. And comparing to previous years, so there was Fighting Spirit Unleashed in 2019 in this same building. We had an attendance of 2,130, and the main event that night was Tanahashi, Okada, and Ibushi taking on Evil Sonata and Tetsuya Naito. So bigger attendance there back in 2019, and I think I'll say a few reasons for that. Also, that the company was hotter during that time period, and I think there's just a lot more stars on that card. Even though, again, here this was a 6-man tag main event, you still had all the top guys in there: Tanahashi, Ibushi, and you had LIJ, also very popular with the U.S. crowd. And throughout that card, there was also a lot of others, big names on that card. So even though it was a lot of multi-mans, all the stars were there. Compared to this year, the company's not as hot as they were in 2019, and we didn't quite have all of the major New Japan stars.
Shop early, save big, all month long during Black Friday build-up at Lowe's. Right now, get select pre-lit artificial Christmas trees starting at just $59.98. Don't wait to save. Shop these deals today, in-store or online, because Lowe's knows deals. Discount taken at time of purchase while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Stars on this card, so that's why attendance there a little bit lower compared to 2019.
I do wonder if that number you gave is legit.
The 1,022.
That didn't seem like there was 1,000 people in that building, bro.
We'll see. So yeah, that number came from Cage Match, which I think they pulled their numbers from New Japan's Japanese site that reports on the attendance every week.
Well, I know that I went to WrestleTix, and WrestleTix didn't have numbers for this show, but I did see people posting the available tickets in the building based off of like web searches for people that were buying last minute tickets. And I saw some of the maps, and bro, there was like a lot of seats empty, like a lot. And I don't know what the venue actually holds, so maybe I'm speculating here, but like if I was guessing, I don't think that 1,200 number is accurate. Maybe I'm wrong here. Wouldn't be the first time I said something wrong on the show. Maybe I'll get a call from the office. But I don't know. That did not look or sound like a building with 1,200 fans.
Yeah, maybe it's not accurate, but it's definitely less than the 2,130 they did in 2019. And I was just saying, obviously that due to them not being as hot as they were in 2019, there's a lot more bigger stars on the 2019 card as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't miss it. The opening match, the Strong Survivor match, we had Matt Vandergriff defeating Seabass Finn in 5 minutes and 31 seconds.
Yeah, this was, again, it's just a Strong Survivor match. They didn't get much time. These guys were just go, 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 which is fine because it is a bit of an exhibition. They're only given so much time, and they want to get their shit in and make a good impression, which I get. At the same time, I think that there always still needs to be a sense of based realism. I'm not one of these guys that says it needs to be like Fighting Network rings when they go out there and they wrestle, but they were hitting each other with some huge monster moves down the stretch and just popping up afterwards. Like, no, and I'm not a selling Nazi, but like, you gotta have some selling. Otherwise what you're doing is not wrestling anymore. It's just gymnastics. But I get it. These guys are young. They have limited time. They're trying to make a good impression. In some ways, it sort of reminded me of that Tokyo Dome match when it was who was it? It was Kyrie versus was it Mina? No, not Mina.
Maya.
Tam.
Yeah, I think
it was Tam.
Yeah.
And but that one was better. But even then, there was an exhibition-y sort of feel to it, where it's like, this isn't that real because they're just going. And it's like, there's a way to do that match where you can go. I mean, look at, we've got one of our favorite things to do when we're together with some of our friends is like the 5 minutes of Fury, the greatest matches in under 5 to 10 minutes. And there are certain matches that they kill it in under 5 minutes, Ricky Marvin versus Kenta, or 1, 2, 3 Kid versus Owen Hart. And like, you get your shit in and still have a great wrestling match. These guys went out there and they're young, they're green. I get it. But like, they were like just hitting huge ass shit and just popping up. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like it's fine. This is stuff that probably realistically shouldn't be on the show though. Like, it probably is better off in like a wrestling student showcase. That's the level of what we're seeing there.
Yeah. And honestly, I was a little bit more impressed with Seabass Finn than I was with Matt Vandegrift.
There was one, his finish, whatever that, he hit that, it was like a fisherman's side brainbuster sort of things.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah. So he looked good, but Matt Vandegrift ended up getting the win, and then post-match he's cutting this promo about being undefeated in New Japan and being a strong survivor, and then out comes Zane J, who's somebody that's also a academy student, somebody he's beaten in the past. He came out, he had his head shaved, and talking about he went to Japan, got his head shaved, and this is real to him, and that he wants a chance to beat Matt Vandegrift. And so I guess Matt accepted the challenge and then ended up laying him out and dropping him, I think, with a pile driver and laying him out. So it seems like at Strong Style Evolved, Zane J will get another crack at the strong survivor, Matt Vandegrift.
I don't know if you saw the Kamala Trump promo battle when they did the debate and they asked Trump about his plan. He said he had concepts of a plan. I think Zane J had concepts of a promo there. Like, in theory, the ideas of what he was trying to say were good, but the actual execution, again, that's the kind of promo that should probably not be happening on a show like this. Should probably be like more better suited for a student showcase. Fine. They're doing another strong survivor match. Commentary, I don't know if they were clued in, because it did seem like Walker Stewart and Veda Scott, that they were like, yeah, he's been winning. It's been over a year. You got to wonder what the next step is. And they're like kind of gearing him up to like for something. And then like the angle starts happening. You're like, oh shit, like something real might come out of this. And it's like Zane J, which it's like, it's fine. He's a student. They're telling a story, but this is all like self-contained, like LA Academy dojo type shit. You know what I mean? And it's like, is this ever going to end? Is it ever going to lead to anything of note? I don't know. Like, I don't even think this should really be on the shows, to be honest with you at this point.
Yeah, I was a little just baffled. Like, all right, this Zane J is like saying he's been in Japan. He got, the young lion head shaving. Like, why is he in Japan and not the strong survivor?
You know what I'd much rather see, Jeremy? And maybe I'm alone in this, and maybe the guys listening are like, no, don't say that. But like, you want to be a LA you want to be, oh, well, there's no LA dojo, but you want to be a New Japan Academy guy, be a fucking lion, you know?
Yeah, like I miss the days of Fredericks and Coughlin and Connors and these guys. They wore the black tights. You don't have to shave your head, but they came out there. They wore the black tights. They wrestled like young lions. They tried to put on Boston Crabs. They learned the basics of pro wrestling, and they tried to just do that in their match. And they would have their 5-minute young lion opening, and it would be awesome, and they would kill it, and they got over. And I don't know why they went away from that formula, but like that, like, I'm sorry, Matt. I know that the hair is going anyway, but you should shave the head. You should be in the black trunks. Zane J, you need to be in the black trunks. All these dudes get in the black trunks. Do your squats. Eat your chonko.
I don't need them to do all of that, but even if it's just a US facsimile version of that, you know what I mean? Like, I don't need them to be in their own self-contained little opener 5-minute universe that does nothing. I need them to actually interact with the other guys on the brand, do tag matches. If they're going to have a Young Lions match, let them have an actual Young Lions match. We don't need this, you know. How much better is, what you're seeing out of the Young Lions in Tokyo, you know, in their 5 to 10 minute exhibitions versus what we've seen out of the entirety of the Strong Survivor matches. And in the Strong Survivor matches, they're actually allowed to do shit, but they don't have the fundamentals that those guys do. They don't understand the psychology that those guys do. So it doesn't have the same effect. It'd be better for them to force them to go out and wrestle, to actually wrestle, and to do preview tags and to come up that way, you know?
Yeah, like just do what they did with the original crop of LA Dojo guys. Like, I don't understand why they went away with that. I get not wanting Shibata to be the trainer anymore, fine, but why did they go away from that formula of what they did? And like, those guys are all, obviously Connors, Bull Club War Dogs, Gabe Kidd, Kevin Knight, like those guys are established and they're using them. Like, I don't see Matt Vandegrift ever getting to where those guys are at based on what he's doing right now.
I mean, if this Strong Survivor leads to some sort of angle that catapults his inclusion on any level to New Japan, then color me wrong, I don't want to be negative, but there is a conspiratorial part of me that's like, what if this is just pay to play type shit?
That's why he's undefeated.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they got an LA Academy, they probably charge a pretty penny for that. It's not like the dojo where they were paying those guys a contract and housing them and everything, but it's more like they're in our academy. They're in our school. They're paying their dues, but we got to kind of give them make good. So we'll give them 5 minutes. We'll give them this Strong Survivor thing, but like, we're never actually going to bring them. They're never really going to be part of New Japan, but we have to have an enticing enough carrot to dangle in front of them to keep them paying, because, if they pay us this money and they come through the academy, you might be able to be just like, Zane J, or you might be able to be like, whatever the fuck the dude, what's his name?
Vandegrift.
Yeah, you might be the next Matt Vandegrift for a year. You could be the Strong Survivor. You just got to pay these 5Gs every year, or whatever the fuck it is. I'm wondering if that's the gimmick. Why are you laughing?
The idea of that it's just funny. I mean, it could be.
Do you think I'm wrong? I mean, it sounds nefarious, but like, think about it. What kind of payday do you think that the Strong Survivor guys could possibly be made? How many of these shows do they run in a year, right?
Like 5, 6.
Okay, if they're running 6, and let's say at best, let's say that they're being generous and they gave them $100, right, for the show, which would probably be, I don't know. We'll see. I doubt it, right? That'd be like a $500-$600 payout. At minimum, to be in the academy, they got to be paying at least $2,000. So that's a $1,400 profit on the company side for just that one performer, and then not including everybody else that's probably in the academy who's paying dues. But I wouldn't be surprised with it being the LA, New Japan branded. If it costs more than that, I don't know what the cost is, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is pure profit for the company. And I know I'm being conspiratorial, but like, where the fuck is this going? Probably nowhere.
Hey, if Bad Dude Tito and West Coast Wrecking Crew and Tom Lawler can't get to Japan, like what makes you think like I'm looking around like, what are my chances? Like the dude looks like a Steiner brother can't get into Japan, but Matt Vandegrift, Zay J is gonna get in. Come on, man.
Who's the Steiner brother that you're referencing?
Bad Dude Tito. That dude looks like he's a Steiner brother, man. He's got the singlet, he's got the look, he's jacked, drops people on their heads, like he's awesome. Like that guy can't get into Japan regularly, but Chase Owens Jr. is gonna get it. Come on, man.
Bro, we might be onto something that no one else has picked up on just yet. Or there's gonna be someone mad that's gonna be how dare you besmirch the integrity of this fine establishment? But I'm just thinking in dollars and cents here. I work in finance, and I'm just like,
oh man, yeah. Well, moving on from that.
Oh, we're mean.
We had the show opened up. The main show opened up with the global champion Dave Finlay defeating Kevin Knight in 9 minutes and 29 seconds.
This was fine. On the one hand, I thought it was kind of cool because you did get to see Kevin Knight sort of take a step up. Obviously, Strong is more prone to being able to do like open weight concept style matches because it is US based. But you do have to wonder. We've talked about the frame of a Kevin Knight and whether he has the goods to kind of make that jump to the heavyweights. I don't know if I thought this match was like excellent, but I thought it was a good opener for, the main card. And, I really don't have a lot to say there other than that it was interesting to just kind of see that experiment play out.
Yeah, it was a fun matchup. Kevin Knight started out hot, kind of hit Finlay as he's making his entrance. And yeah, I thought Kevin Knight, he's looking really great. This was a very busy weekend for him. He was on MLW and he had some other bookings as well. He also I think 4 or 5 matches over the weekend. So yeah, he's getting all his reps in. He's looking really good. And yeah, he looked good here with Finlay. I think that, he's a guy that needs to be moved up to heavyweight pretty soon. Like he's tall, he's putting on some muscle. I could see him being a guy that you want to invest in and push to that heavyweight level. But Finlay ends up getting the win. He hits the overkill on Kevin Knight to get the clean win. So he gets the pin. And we had a question here from Sad Goal 8860. What do you think it would take to build the global title's prestige?
I think that David Finlay's already starting to accomplish that feat through the course of his title reign this past year. If you exclude the dark period that included the Nick Nemeth reign, everything outside of that's been pretty good.
Yeah, I'm sure that had Nemeth not came in, he probably would have held the belt all year, and that would have helped establish the reign more. But yeah, if you exclude that little blip of time, like pre that, it established it, like beating Moxley and Ospreay and then kind of going into that feud with Nemeth, and then post that, he's been having all these great matches with Goto, Yoshihashi and Taichi, and 1 month after the other is kind of beating all the favorites and challengers and kind of getting to the spot where he is now. I think that just, continue that booking, having guys have strong reigns, great matches, that's going to raise the prestige of a title.
Now, Jeremy, through the course of this review, I'm going to rely on you to remember the angles because I'm prone to just skip over them.
Yeah, so am I. So I made sure to actually write the angles on my rundown because sometimes when I'm reading the results, I'll skip over an accident. So I put the angles in the rundown here so we don't go over them.
And that's one thing. There are definitely things to criticize about this show. But the one thing that they really did utilize this for was to focus on creating angles that propelled the stories going into the Tokyo Dome. So this actually wound up being one of the most important storyline driven strong shows of the whole year, as unbelievable as that is.
Yeah, lots of angles. So, people looked at the card on paper, like, it's kind of a skippable show, but there were so many angles up and down the card, like you mentioned, all built for either Wrestle Kingdom or Wrestle Dynasty.
It kind of was a skippable show when it comes to the actual action. Everything sort of played out exactly how you thought it might, except like there were just a lot of angles where you're like, oh fuck, like they're actually doing builds that they probably should have been building way ahead of time, but we're doing it, so here we go.
Yeah. So then following that, we had the NJPW Strong Openweight Tag Team title match. We had the grizzled young veterans, James Drake and Zach Gibson, defeating the TMDK team of Mikey Nichols and Shane Hayes to become the new Strong Openweight Tag Team champions.
Yeah, there was an interesting aspect to this show where it's like, we've talked about how some of these US shows from time to time don't have the highest level of production. And I think that this show probably falls into that category where it comes off a little bit more shindy with just the camera work and the lighting. And then, the lack of a great crowd, that sort of thing. But they did put some effort into, like I mentioned, and we talked about the angles, but there was also other production aspects that were good, where they had pre-match promos and VTRs and stuff like that. That's sort of been lacking on some of the US shows. So we did get the pre-match promos with grizzled young vets earlier in the night, kind of, old school throwback to build up this match. And there was a good story going into it with these guys having gone back and forth prior to the event. The match itself was fine. I thought everyone worked pretty hard, but not like necessarily their hardest. I think a lot of the performances probably derived again from the lack of a great crowd. It's probably hard to get your energy level up when you're not getting it reciprocated from the audience. But the match was good, back and forth. Ultimately grizzled young vets picked up the win. I think I was a little bit surprised there because we just took the double champs, made them lose both their titles right before Tag League, which maybe that's a redemption arc, but I don't know what the aim. We've talked so many times about what the fuck is the point of these titles, and then you put them on grizzled young vets. Maybe at least with that, they can be sort of a showcase team in the States with them, and it gives them incentive to come back. But ultimately, I don't know why this set of tag titles even needs to exist in the first place.
Yeah, I think it makes it look very odd. Like, all right, now the GYV just beat TMDK and they're not in World Tag League. Like, what's going on here? It's not like, GYV is getting booked very well in AEW or on TV every week. So you couldn't get these guys over for World Tag League. Again, yeah, it just makes it very weird. And again, don't know why these titles need to exist. I know Rocky has told us, they kind of want to establish this brand and have its own titles, but they've kind of really moved away from that, and I don't think this brand needs its own set of titles at this point.
Well, that was when we talked to Rocky at episode 300. I mean, by the time episode 400 comes around, we'll have new questions for him. We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll even be allowed to come on the show or not. One other thing too is you have to kind of imagine, given the names involved here on a different platform, this probably would have the makings of an all-time classic tag team match. And while the match was certainly not bad, it wasn't quite that. Like, I didn't see anyone talking about this match in the lead up to it. There was no hype for it happening, and then it happened, and the most plugged in and diehard New Japan fans, they watched it, they know about it, but it wasn't anything super memorable, and considering the caliber of these two teams, and again, grizzled young vets, probably a team that I would have liked to see in World Tag League, but that's neither here nor there. But this just wasn't what it could have been under different circumstances.
Yeah. So towards the end here, Team DK went for the Tank Buster, hit that for a near fall. But then Shane Hayes had some issues with the knee. Drake choked Hayes with his towel, Gibson hit a clothesline on Hayes to get the pin and become the new strong openweight tag team champion. So kind of surprise title change there. So
I'm not surprised. I mean, like I've mentioned so many times before, New Japan sluts for former WWE talent, you know?
Yeah. I guess it's just surprising in the fact like they weren't now they're not in World Tag League, and you have a team that's established that is in World Tag League, and you would think that Team DK would at least win this to kind of keep some momentum for Tag League. But like I said, maybe they're doing a total redemption.
Which team works for Tony Khan?
Hey, good point.
Just saying. Usually I put my money on that team.
Well, the following match also had a Tony Khan winner. We had Lio Rush defeating Mustafa Ali in 10 minutes and 8 seconds.
Yeah, they did a great job on commentary explaining the many times that these two guys have faced off against one another, with Lio Rush having never been able to beat Mustafa Ali. There was an angle setting this up. These guys had wrestled on one of the pre-shows earlier in the year. But the match itself was fine. But considering, again, the caliber of talent here, I don't know what the disconnect was, but there was just really nothing here. Like, that sort of, I don't want to put any blame on any one individual, but if the reports are to be believed, just the general consensus, that's how most diehard fans feel about most of Mustafa's post WWE run in general. So it's maybe not that surprising, but I don't know. We did get the Blackheart, quasi Blackheart version of Lio Rush here. So I guess a little bit of spookiness and everything like that. But I don't know. The match was fine. I guess mechanically it was okay, but I don't know. I almost felt like it was a little bit soulless.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to build a match that doesn't have, TV. These guys aren't in Japan. Like, there's no real heat behind this. Yeah, they had one match previously months ago, but it's hard to heat these things up when there's not constant TV. These guys aren't in Japan building stuff up. So it was a match, and yeah, I mean, they wrestled a good matchup for this crowd. But you would expect that with it being Ali and Lio Rush, like, this could potentially be his all-time, great junior heavyweight match, and it was a fun match. And they kind of built up off of stuff from the previous match, and the last time they did that whole angle where Leo had the goose dripping from his mouth and became the Black Heart, and so that kind of played into that, like you mentioned, coming out in the Black Heart kind of face paint and all that stuff. So that played into the match as well. Towards the end, Leo ends up hitting. He kind of pulled a Tanahashi. He hit the final hour frog splash on the back, and then hit a standing crossbody version to get the pin on Mustafa Ali. So he gets the win there, and I'm not sure what's next for Lio Rush.
I just think, like, if this was several years back prior to the WWE run, like, if this match happened in the Cruiserweight Classic, or if this match happened in PWG or AAW or Evolve or any number of top indies, this would have fucking ruled. You know what I mean? They wouldn't. Yeah, sure. It's like they didn't build it up, but like based off of reputation, name, and talent alone, these guys could have gone to the Orpheum in Ybor, working Evolve 67 and had a 4-star match easily. So, I'm not buying that.
Yeah. Following that, we had the 3 stages of strong best 2 out of 3 falls tag team matchup, with the West Coast Wrecking Crew defeating Dirty Work in 15 minutes and 33 seconds. So we had Tom Lawler. He got the first fall for Dirty Work by putting Jarrell Nelson through a table. It was a tables match. Second fall was submission match. Isaacs getting the submission over Fred Rosser. And then the final fall was a last man standing strap match with West Coast Wrecking Crew getting the win on that fall.
Jeremy, what do you think my thoughts were on this match?
I have a feeling you didn't like it.
Nope. You know what's funny is like I saw the cage match scores, I heard the laments, I saw the complaints. I don't know, man. I really like this match. Like, don't get me wrong, it was far from perfect. I felt like the last the third fall where they did the straps did not make a lot of sense. Things started falling apart. The refereeing and the officiating were kind of all over the place. And I wasn't quite sure on the rules necessarily. So it was a little bit chaotic there. But in terms of what this feud has been and how it's built, it sort of needed to be this big blow off. And I don't think the audience was great. I don't think they were super invested in this. And this wasn't necessarily indicative of what you're used to seeing when you think of New Japan, quote unquote. But I saw the complaints online and like people were giving this like 2 and like 1 ratings. And like, I don't fucking get it. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm a whore for plunder and blood and, you know, violence. But that's what this match was. It was big, fucking huge, beefy dudes who hate each other, you know, bleeding and putting each other through tables and hitting each other with weapons and, you know, a lot of back and forth. I thought it was entertaining as hell. Probably didn't need to go as long as it did. Like I mentioned, kind of fell apart in the third fall, but like I enjoyed it. And I know that we've criticized Strong for always having to have a plunder match, and that still remains the same. But at least this wasn't just plunder for plunder's sake. It was the culmination of multiple years of storyline kind of building into this. I almost regret that there wasn't a better reception to it in the audience, and there surely wasn't one at home. But I don't know, for people that are, you know, given this the lowest rated match of the night, I don't know, maybe this just kind of tells you the sort of wrestling fan that I am. I don't have the same taste as some of these people, because I saw people being like, they didn't need to bleed like that. And I'm like, you never need to bleed like that. They bleed like that because it's fucking awesome, you know?
Yeah, it's a blood feud. Like this.
Yeah.
This rivalry has been one of the backbones of this Strong promotion, starting with it being Lawler versus Rosser, Team Filthy versus Rosser, and then building into what it is today with Dirty Work versus West Coast Wrecking Crew. Like these guys have been feuding for years. Like they cut
lore.
Yes, there's a ton of lore here, and I think again that kind of shows a disconnect of this New Japan Strong brand. The fact that you've had this hot rivalry that's been going on for years, and the crowd that's there doesn't even really know about it or seems invested in what's been happening. Yeah, I enjoyed the matchup as well. I thought it was a good matchup. I mean, it was a good blow-off for this blood feud. I mean, a little surprised that West Coast Wrecking Crew won, just because normally in the blow-off, usually the babyfaces get the win, but also they are the most established team, and it seems like there's plans for them to continue to kind of elevate that Strong ladder. Post-match, they did challenge the Grizzled Young Veterans to a tag team title match at Strong Style Evolve, and they accepted, so they're the next challengers. Also kind of weird, you have 2 heel teams facing off against each other, so also would have thought Dirty Work would have won. But yeah, overall, very good match, and I agree with you that the last man standing part, you know, they had the strap eventually, you know, got disconnected from Jarrell Nelson and I think it was Tom Lawler, so that led to like a 2-on-1 beatdown at one point because both guys weren't strapped up together. But regardless of that, you know, there was a lot of crazy spots. The DVD through the table that Lawler did to Nelson to get the win was crazy. And there you have plundering throughout the crowd, hitting each other with stuff. Rosser was gushing blood at one point.
They didn't do a good job explaining the rules for that last fall, because originally I thought it was supposed to be a lumberjack strap match. And I felt like they had the momentum to have a really compelling third act because the exhaustion was there, the blood was there, and the stipulation lends itself well to high drama. But the execution, they didn't explain the rules well. The referees seemed to be confused. We didn't know if somebody was down, if it was a real count or not, or how that worked with the straps. Like you mentioned, the straps came undone a few times, and it was just kind of all over the place. And not in a good way. So yeah, I felt like the third fall wasn't probably what it needed to be, but all in all, I don't know. Like, some wrestling fans, they like the cutesy shit and everything like that. Maybe I might have some stomach for that, but like, give me big badass motherfuckers beating the shit out of each other. Like, that's the heart and soul of what wrestling is. I don't know. I highly enjoyed this. I thought it was maybe not a great wrestling match, but it was a very, very good one. And I don't at all agree or understand. Bro, here's where it comes down to me. One of the most violent matches in New Japan this year. And I'm like, should this be a strong style fight of the year contender?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you look at the scores and you're like, oh man, like, but it's a small sample size at the same time,
Yeah. How many people actually watch this show?
Yeah. How many people that actually watch the show that actually have cage match that felt the need to go blast it on cage match?
Yeah. So yeah, like I mentioned, post match we got the title match up for December with West Coast Wrecking Crew challenging Grizzled Young Veterans, and it was funny like they're Michaels and working at first, and eventually once they started working, Jarrell was like, just like New Japan, give us some mic, it's not working, all it's holding us back. Like it's.
I don't expect them to win, and again, that's a shame because we've talked ad nauseum over the years about how this is the most established tag team in the strong brand that you would think that the cornerstone team at some point would hold the straps. But I just can't see Grizzled Young Vets being the team that's the transitionary champions to establish, West Coast Wrecking Crew. Like they've failed at challenging for those titles so many times. I don't see Grizzled Young Vets being the guys to lay down for them.
Yeah. I think they're eating an L for sure.
Which ultimately makes you wonder, like, what was the point of all this? And I guess part of it was just for four buddies to work together and tell their story to the best of their ability so that they could all just keep putting food on the table and entertain the fans. But the fallout of it isn't really, I don't think, going to lead anywhere meaningful for the brand or for the guys involved, unfortunately.
Yeah. So following that, we did have a video package from Mercedes Moné talking about the upcoming four-way women's title match. The winner is going to face her for the NJPW Strong Women's title. So in that match, we had Hazuki defeating Anna Jay, Kaguma, and Trish Adora in 8 minutes and 57 seconds.
Okay. Actually, Jeremy, this is a great example to tell you what kind of pro wrestling fan I am. I saw the scores for this match and I can't believe how high they are. Like, do I prefer the blade job or do I prefer the three girls standing in the middle of the ring, putting, the bear ears and bending over and doing the cutesy shit together, before like, I don't need that. That's not for me. Maybe it is for other people, but like, I don't know. I might have a narrow mindset for what I can tolerate in pro wrestling, but like, I don't know. I like it when people hate each other and beat each other up. I don't need the gaga.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the match was fine. You had a kind of a weird mix of women here. You had Hazuki and Kaguma from Stardom. Hazuki, I've always been a big fan of her. She's kind of a standout in that high speed division. And she had eventually retired in like 2019, 2020, but eventually came back to wrestling. And yeah, she's really, really good. And so I'm glad she won the matchup. Anna Jay, recently coming off of that Stardom excursion. Been a lot of mixed reviews on her. A lot of people saying the excursion wasn't helpful. There are people who are saying she has gotten better. Trish Adora, who's also an academy student. So it's kind of this interesting mix of women here. And it was a fine matchup. It was kind of your more formulaic four-way, like this do a spot, this person's in and out kind of thing.
That's why I hated it.
Yeah.
I hate that shit. I don't like four ways, and I don't like the formula of the four way. And when it's, I do think it's a good thing to have women on the show to give them opportunities and everything like that. But like I don't think that necessarily this format is flattering to those types of performers when there is clearly a divide in the level of workers involved. it doesn't necessarily equate to a compelling match. I didn't think this match was very good, honestly. I felt like there were some moments that were okay, but was one of the lower performing, lower entertaining matches of the evening for me. And then there's the kayfabe aspect where it's like, I find it difficult to think that any of these women are an actual threat to Mercedes from a star presence standpoint. I think they made the right call in having Hazuki be the one to win, and she'll probably have a good match with Mercedes, but she's not going to win. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't have compelling potential challengers in the match to begin with.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be kind of hard to get compelling challengers. Like, who's out there that you can bring in that it's going to be believable?
Right. And again, that speaks to the issue at hand. We don't have a women's division. Therefore, we don't need 2 women's titles.
We haven't even seen the IWGP women's title.
Like, in forever. Like, it'll come back at, for the first time in forever at historic crossover. So I also have to point this out. I just feel like it's worth mentioning. Oh, two things. Well, I guess you'll bring up the second one. But the first one, that video promo package was fucking awful, dude. How can you be so bad at promoing when it's
Mercedes promo?
Bro, when it's pre-recorded? I mean, I get it that like it's a WWE style promo, but like she's bad at it, dude. Like, I am Mercedes Money, and money changes everything. It's like, dude, you're not, this sucks. It's the worst of WWEism, Fedism. It absolutely is. And like, I don't know. I've gone on rants about what people who don't promo well, what they need to do. And, she's got the resources and the knowledge to do it if she really wanted to.
Yeah, well, that leads into the post-match. So we have a surprise appearance. Mercedes Moné was actually there, comes out and confronts Hazuki. Hazuki challenges her for Strong Style Evolved in December, and they throw some blows and build some heat for their upcoming title match.
This is one of the stupidest fucking things for the entire show, and whoever decided that this happened should probably be fired.
Because they didn't advertise her being there?
How the fuck do you not advertise Mercedes Moné being on the show when ticket sales are that low? In her home state? What are you doing? I don't know who is in charge or who made that call. And, maybe we give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe something like this just came together last minute, and that's the reality there. But what's better? The surprise of Mercedes showing up to a half-filled empty arena, which was probably a financial failure for the company, potentially, or advertising that she's going to be on the show, even if she's not wrestling. Like, sure, does that draw as many fans as if she had a compelling match? No, but at least she's in the building. The Sasha stands can put down their hard-earned money and show up and watch her. She's supposed to have the most rabid fan base of anybody that's out there, right? But they didn't advertise her. She shows up, and it's like, what a fucking waste. This is terrible business. That is bad booking.
Yeah, they could have easily just said, Mercedes Moné will be here. Like, you don't have to advertise for a match, and then they could have done a pre-show meet and greet.
Oh, my God. They're dumb. Somebody is dumb. I don't know who it is, but they're dumb.
Yeah, there's definitely a miss. Like you say, it could have been a whole last minute. Like, she happened to be in town. Like, you know what? Hey, yeah, let's bring her on and do the
Bro, if she even if let's say that is the case, right? You advertise it.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's day of, fucking advertise it. Put the word out there and sell those last minute tickets if that's what you got to do. Unless the deal came together 15 minutes before the show started, there's no excuse for it.
Yeah, it's complete miss there.
That's a huge miss. And I mean, yeah, we're critical on this show. We call things as we see it. And some people think we're overly negative from time to time. Some people think we're overly positive. But I think generally speaking, we're not too burial heavy. Like, you don't hear me saying that something is just outright fucking dumb, but this is like the one rare exception where it's like, how do you not advertise the biggest star that you have on the show from a money drawing standpoint of anybody that's going to be there that evening in her home state? How do you not advertise that?
Right. And we were saying earlier, like a few weeks ago, like it's weird that she's not on this show, but she's on the California show. It's like, yeah, like advertise her, have her do media, do a pre-show meet and greet. Like there's so much stuff they could have done to capitalize on her being there to draw people there.
And I'm not even saying that it would turn business around. You know, it's nothing like that. But if you sold 150 more tickets, what does that equal, you know, in terms of the bottom line?
Yeah.
You know, if you sell merch, if you sell meet and greets, you know, that's a huge difference maker. The fact that you just freely, easily gave up on that for an angle that no one is going to be talking about or remember beyond this moment, it's so short-sighted, and frankly, it's idiotic.
Yeah. So moving on to the next matchup, we had the team of Shingo Takagi and Yota Tsuji defeating the Undisputed Kingdom team of Matt Taven and Mike Bennett from AEW.
I have seen very little of the Undisputed Kingdom. Is that their name?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, obviously these guys were all together in ROH back in the day and everything like that, but I've seen very little of them in this current iteration on AEW or ROH TV. I can't say that I was overly enthused for this match. In theory, it's kind of an intriguing one, sort of interesting. And I actually do think that I thought this was a better tag match than Grizzled Young Vets versus TMDK, honestly, which I was a little surprised by. And it was a good preview for LIJ going into World Tag League. But I don't know. It's house show shit. You know what I mean? End of the day, like it's nothing, you know, super, super compelling. And I don't know if there was a lot of New Japan fans clamoring for, you know, their favorites from Honor Rising circa to 2016 or whatever, you know?
You mean New Japan fans weren't clamoring for the former IWGP Tag Team Champions?
No, they were not.
Yeah, the match was fine. I agree. I thought it was a better match than the
maybe if Maria was there, that would be different.
Yeah, this was better than the tag title match. Yeah, it was a fine matchup. Honestly, it was more to kind of get Shingo and Tsuji, you know, a rep for World Tag League. And yeah, it was a fine matchup, but the most important thing that came out of this match was the post-match angle. So after, you know, LJ, you know, Tsuji has the Gene Blast. They're celebrating in the ring. You know, Tsuji's in the ring. Shingo heads to the back. Lights go out. We get a video package of somebody kind of like doing some blacksmith work, and we see kind of like this goat head spear thing. Lights come back on. It is the scapegoat Jack Perry. He comes out and he's challenging Yota Tsuji. He beats him up and says that he came back to challenge him and wants to face him on January 5th at Wrestle Dynasty in the Tokyo Dome. And it was made official today on NJPW's social accounts and website. It will be the scapegoat Jack Perry versus the Gene Blast Yota Tsuji for January 5th, Wrestle Dynasty in the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. Like I said, there's a lot of angles, and this eventually it started to become a little bit like overkill-ish, but I don't know. Did you feel like there was a positive reception, not for the match announcements, but like for the way that this was built? Like, what's the vibe out there on the streets when it comes to this shit?
Yeah, I think that's what I saw. A lot of people were excited from all the angles, and we're excited to see Jack Perry. You know, he's been getting over with the scapegoat character, being a part of the Elite. He is a TNT champion right now. So again, it was a great surprise for the live crowd. They popped big, and so overall, I think it got a lot of hype for having Jack Perry show up there, and people are hyped up for seeing him versus Tsuji and starting to get these matches announced for Wrestle Dynasty.
makes me a little nervous because Tony Khan has said how much he likes Tsuji, and he's one of the only modern guys that he has actually vocally mentioned being a fan of. And now he's got, he's got one of his top guys going against him. And there's always the possibility that Tsuji wins the white belt night one, and then it's TNT champion versus international champion.
Global.
Is that or I always forget what the fuck it is. Yeah, global champion on night 2 title versus, I don't know if I don't think it'll be title versus title, but champion versus champion. And it just makes me nervous because they took so many of our guys. Who's to say that, CTC, Tony doesn't decide to just cut that check. And we never do see that IWGP World Heavyweight title run with Tsuji, because a year from now, this guy's, working fucking Wembley,
Yeah, like come Gene Blast your way over here, buddy.
Yeah, like it, AEW's got to sign up anyone that's not, ID'd by the Fed. So, we got to find a new pipeline.
Yeah. The pipeline been going.
Yeah, what the fuck? So I don't know. I'm a little nervous about it, but yeah, it was exciting. It was fine, and I'm sure that match will be good. So I don't know if I'm in love with the way that they built the 1-5 show because, but I don't know what the alternative would have been. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how they would do any of it on the AEW television that was meaningful, and I don't know how they would have done it considering the limitations with New Japan's, late season schedule and not really being a TV product. It's strange, you're trying to find that happy medium, but it does feel weird that it all happened on a seemingly semi unimportant Lowell Mass strong show,
Yeah.
It's not like they were in a huge arena like the Chicago show where that would make more sense to me.
Yeah. But yeah, to mention that they had to start shooting the angles because all they have is Strong Style Evolved on the New Japan side.
They just shoehorned a lot of it, which I guess is fine. Beggars can't be choosers, but at the same time, I guess I have to be a little critical of it to some degree.
Yeah. And with a question from Sad Goal 860. So since both Jack and Okada are in the Elite, does that accidentally align Okada with House of Torture should he return to New Japan?
I don't even know if the Elite still will exist because the Bucks, they were shredding them documents, bro.
Yeah.
When they go away, the Elite sort of go on hiatus, and then when they come back, you just never know who will or won't actually still be in the group by that point.
Yeah. And it seems like they are kind of shifting things with Okada as the Continental Classic is coming up. They're starting to do a lot of vignettes for him into a more serious wrestler again. So who knows what's going to happen with the whole Elite thing going forward.
Yeah. My understanding is that they are still projected to work the Dome.
As of right now, yeah, it seems like they're still going to be set for January 5th. Don't know what the match is going to be. Again, like we talked about last week, there are the rumors of Nick Jackson's potential shoulder injury. Apparently, it's been bugging him for a while. But again, that's not confirmed. That's just a lot of people kind of speculating and saying stuff they've heard. So that could potentially lead them out. But as of right now, it sounds like they are still slated for Wrestle Dynasty.
Yeah. Who's to say that they don't come out and fucking pull the same shit at the end of the World Tag League? Just come out and be like, we want the title shots.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, could happen.
It's happened before.
Yeah. So following that, we had Rei Oiwa defeating Kenta in 9 minutes and 26 seconds.
Match was fine. Oiwa just recently spent time over in Noah. Obviously, Kenta's roots and history are there. So there was a little bit of a connectivity between the two of them going into this match. The way they had Oiwa win was reversing a small package and tilting him into his own pinning combination there, but not necessarily a clean win, but not the most definitive win you would expect. Match was fine. considering what you would expect from Kenta and Oiwa in 2024, it was fine. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It was there. Probably a good experience for Oiwa, but a lot of the matches on the show were just kind of there. It was fine.
Yeah, it was fine. I wasn't happy with the way that Oiwa won. It was just kind of like you mentioned, the kind of banana peel reverse momentum of the inside cradle to get the win. Kind of this surprise upset win. And I'm like, all right, one of these guys has a title match at the Tokyo Dome, and it's Oiwa, not Kenta. So again, it comes back to pushing the young guys. Like, what would ever hurt Kenta to just hit the grip on this guy, hit him in the middle, 1, 2, 3, pin him clean with no kind of banana peel. It's got a dominant wins. Like, oh wow, like this guy beat an established guy that's been a champion in New Japan. He's gearing up for Tokyo Dome, the shot that he can actually win that TV title. But instead, it's
what do you mean? What would it hurt?
Why would it hurt Kenta? Like, it's not gonna hurt his anything with him. Like, he's way past his prime.
It does. It hurts Kenta because he's got to lose. He's got to put his shoulders on that mat definitively. 1, 2, 3. Fuck that. It don't work for me, brother. I'm Kenta. Okay, not doing it. Did he ever work for WWE? I worked for WWE.
Oh man, but yeah, I mean, they should have just put him over strong here, get him some momentum, and I hate this whole banana peel, like it's still kind of treating him like a young lion, which I get. He just came back from excursion. He's still young, but we need to start getting these guys over. It's a perfect opportunity to establish him and be like, he's a real player. He's coming for that TV title. Like he can win that match.
Time to beat some ass,
Yeah. So following that, we had Shota Umino and Tomohiro Ishii defeating the TMDK team of Bad Dude Tito and Zack Sabre Jr. in 13 minutes and 27 seconds.
Yep. The main story here, this was a preview for the upcoming, I guess, supposed or perceived, main event of Wrestle Kingdom in the Tokyo Dome on 1/4. And I can't say necessarily that I gathered too much in terms of anticipation or even, I don't know, like I didn't get a feel for what I think that match is going to be like, I know we've seen them wrestle before, but I don't even really recall the match in my mind necessarily. I don't have a feel based off of their interactions in these matches as to what that story of the match is even going to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the G1 match was good, and I mean, I've been liking the interactions that they've been having so far in these multi-man tags. That's the one thing with Umino, like he can hang when he's in there with guys like Zack and Shingo and Ospreay. Like, he's proven that he can kind of go with those guys. So I think from a match quality standpoint, I think the Tokyo Dome match will end up being a great match. It's just the way that they're building it, Umino being cold, Zack not being the best strong champion. There's just a lot of negatives leading into that outside the ring. But like inside the ring, like, I have confidence like it'll end up being a great match because obviously Zack is great and Umino's proven that he can hang with guys that are great.
And then, Ishii was Ishii, Tito was Tito, which they're great. I mean, all four guys are very, very talented. This was probably the best tag team match of the evening. Just all things considering, but I don't know. Again, I didn't have strong feelings for this match in general.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I really liked the Tito and Ishii interactions. Also, they kind of did like the Never Style stuff when they were in there, and the crowd was really into that. So
yeah,
they look great. And yeah, Umino and Zack had some good exchanges. So led to Umino hitting the Death Rider on Bad Dude Tito to get the win. And then post the match, the lights go out. We get a video of Jon Moxley saying he's not mad at Shota, but he's very disappointed. And he's going to continue the education. He's going to send an emissary to the Tokyo Dome and fix this problem. Moxley said he will continue to mold Shota into the champion he should be. And then Shota got on the mic and said He doesn't care who it's going to be, whether it's Wheeler, whether it's Pac or Claudio. He doesn't care. He will beat all them and beat Jon Moxley instead. F you, Jon Moxley, shoot him the bird. And so it's not official yet, but it sounds like it will be on night 2 on Wrestle Dynasty. It'll be Shota Umino versus one of
Sami Callihan.
Versus one of the Death Riders.
Could be Marina.
You know what? It could be.
We're doing intergender. Hopefully, I don't know. Does she still have Rich's theme?
Well, she hasn't come out by herself in a while, but I mean that was her last theme she had. So yeah, let's get Rich's theme.
Rich, I hope we get to hear your theme of the Tokyo Dome, brother.
Bumping in Tokyo, 9 problems. Yeah, get that bumping. Yeah.
I hope you get to keep. I don't know how the pay works, but I would assume he gets some sort of pay for her using his song. Hopefully, I hope that continues because she changed factions. So who knows? They probably wouldn't even tell Rich. Like she would just come out with the new theme, and he'd be like, "What the fuck?" But yeah, no. I mean, I didn't even know that there was beef between him and Jon Moxley, but it kind of makes sense. Last week we were on this show on Wednesday, and I mentioned the Death Riders, faction was sort of unveiled. Obviously, they've been teaming together, but like the new branding of it all. And I guess that there was some back and forth on Elon Musk's X, formerly known as Twitter, between the two friends, and I guess what Shota Umino was expressing his disappointment in the new direction of that group.
Yeah, so Umino's been doing interviews and stuff on social, just saying, he's disappointed in Moxley, the way he's been going in the group, and that he would eventually kind of beat him to get him back on the right course. So there's been a lot of comments from Umino.
Yeah, and then there's some people that are anticipating, like, all right, AEW versus IWGP World Champions in the Dome on 1-5, and maybe that's the match. And I don't know, stranger things have happened. You never know, maybe. But it seems as of right now that we're not getting that match, and instead some emissary. But it probably means Claudio. I'd be surprised if it was Wheeler Yuta, right? And I'd be kind of surprised if it was Pac.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Claudio at Dominion, was that last year, and that great Never Six-Man title match. So we haven't seen him a ton in Japan. So it seems like he can come over out. I think that would be a great matchup there for Umino. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Yeah, does Umino walk into that match as champion? Does it become a championship match? How's that all going to play out? So.
Yeah, so interesting stuff there.
Couple questions.
I don't know why. Why isn't Bad Dude Tito allowed to walk out with his title, but Kojima is?
I know, but he did. Bad Dude Tito did lose a title this weekend to Matthew Justice at the MLW tapings.
Who the fuck is Matthew? Is he related to Sid?
You see, he was at the MLW show we were at. He was in one of those. He was in that plunder match. He's always in plunder matches.
Bro, there's a lot of dudes from MLW that are always in plunder. I don't know who Matthew Justice. Which guy is Matthew Justice?
He has long.
Does he wear the mask?
No, he has long hair. He's managed by Bill Alfonso.
Canyon? The guy that I call Canyon?
Yeah,
that
guy, yeah.
Oh, all right. Okay. Why would you have him go over Bad Dude Tito? Bad Dude Tito shouldn't be losing to anybody in that company, realistically.
I don't know.
What are we doing?
So, yeah. So maybe that's why. He knew he was losing the belt, so he didn't walk out with it.
I don't think there's a 0% chance that it is Sami Callihan that's the emissary. Just saying. Getting his boy the big paydays,
A couple questions. Sad Goal says, how do you think the audience reacts if Umino beats Zack at Wrestle Kingdom?
Before I answer that, how fucking funny would it be if the emissary was like Nick Gage?
That would be crazy.
How would the crowd react? I don't know. I don't know what that crowd's gonna react like, because I mean, on the one hand, you got Zack. He's really ingratiated himself to the audience, learning Japanese, being loyal all these years. But like you mentioned, the houses have been a little soft. I don't even know if it's all his fault. Like, it's not like, I don't feel it's like, oh, they put the belt on him and now it's his time to carry the company. I mean, it just kind of happened, and he's only had a couple dates, and most of those dates were already booked before it was confirmed that he was going to be champion. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it hasn't seemed to also boost things. So it might be we've talked about it's a transitionary time. We're trying new things, new champions. It's not like there's been a whole host of a long-standing tradition of having Zack Sabre Jr. be a main eventer in this company, even in a non-champions capacity. You know, like, yes, he's an upper echelon guy in terms of the booking, but he's not consistently headlining shows. It is a new thing. So maybe that's something that needs to improve. Maybe we're seeing the early truths that he's not the top guy, you know, and people who have always believed that are being proven correct in that regard. But on 1-4, I don't know how the crowd is going to be split. We've seen people booing Shota Umino. We've seen the negative reactions. And I kind of have to think that he's going to be playing some form of a heel. I mean, he was kind of heelish in his interactions with Zach at Power Struggle. But, you know, it's a Tokyo Dome crowd. It's not the regular everyday crowd. They like to see changes. They like to get behind the baby face or the up and coming, you know, unproven guy and see title changes. Like, that crowd could shift. And they might get behind it, but it kind of depends on how they play it. There's also a chance that Umino leans into the heeldom and really heals it up and then, you know, gets the crowd behind Zach. So I don't know really at this point. It's too hard to tell.
Yeah, there's also the possibility of kind of like the John Cena effect where you have the male audience that's booing him. You have the women and children that are cheering and behind him. So that could be an interesting dynamic in the Tokyo Dome. And, I mean, that could maybe eventually be a good thing for him to kind of have this kind of polarizing effect.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how both of them are perceived throughout the tour by the crowds, even though I know we're going to be in a lot of local prefecture gyms and stuff. It's just going to be, especially, I'm sure there's a few nights there in Corkin. That's going to be very interesting to see what those receptions look like and what kind of business they do on this tour, because you have to wonder if, you know, having both of them on the tour makes any difference at all in terms of numbers.
Yeah. And Death Triangle asked, did the reaction from the U.S. crowd of Shota surprise you?
What, that they didn't boo him out of the house?
Yeah, they popped for him. They were very positive.
Not necessarily, but part of that is because, you know, I don't know, it's hard to just label Western New Japan fans that attend shows as one particular thing. Cause I've been to shows where it was very clear. Everybody there was diehard New Japan fans and plugged in and knew everybody, blah, 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 at different times. And I've been to shows where they're wrestling fans, but they're not diehard New Japan fans or what have you. Like, they might just be local wrestling fans that are in the area buying the ticket and they're there to support, but they're not following along on New Japan World. And I've seen a variety of different kinds of wrestling fans attend these shows. So it's hard to kind of get any real read for me to be like, what's the demographics? What type of fan are we seeing in Lowell, Massachusetts on a Friday night in 2024? I really don't know if that, you know, but if we're just taking it from a US standpoint, how many times have we seen Jon Moxley team up with Shota Umino in the States and that be a positive thing? So I would chalk that up to being more the cause than being able to say, like, this is how the US New Japan fan on, like, say, Reddit feels about the guy.
Yeah, I think the whole Jon Moxley connection has helped Umino's presence in the U.S. I think he's always been over since that, 2019 with the U.S. fans when Moxley took him under his wing. There were so many memes and people kind of loved that whole story of, Moxley kind of being the dad to Umino. And so, yeah, that's helped his character and helped him be over with the U.S. crowd. And anytime he show up on the U.S. and his few AEW appearances, like, he does get good reaction. So it was not surprised at all. I don't think, especially like you mentioned, I don't know if the Massachusetts crowd was locked into what's happening in Japan, that he's getting booed, or maybe they don't care and they just like him because of the Mox connection. So I'm not surprised at all there. So that brought us to the semi-main event of the evening. We had the AEW International title match as the champion Konosuke Takeshita defends and defeats TJP 14 minutes and 13 seconds. Josh, we had the return of the Oswong. We got the blood spray in the mist towards the beginning of the match, and we had the Oswong version of TJP.
I liked the VTR and pre-match promos with these guys, and sort of, TJP sort of trying to tie in the Callis family, Will Ospreay connections from AEW into his motivations here. So I thought that was great. And I also thought that Walker Stewart and Veda Scott did a great job on the call here, sort of explaining the backstories and motivations and everything. And, TJP's been on a tear. Takeshita. I don't know if I thought the match was outstanding, but it was one of the two. I mean, I thought this match and the main event were the two best matches of the evening. There was Aswong-ness going on. There was mist and shit like that. So, that is what it is. But when you have two pros in there like this, they're going to deliver. I thought the match was, pretty solid, very good. And I was under no, and it's something that we talked about last week, is we kind of knew that this match and the main event were both going to be very good considering the guys involved, but there's also a lack of excitement because there's no question who's winning those matches.
Yeah, this was a very good match, and maybe it could have been a little bit better without the Oswong-ism. But yeah, it was still very good towards the end of the match. TJP sprayed the mist again. He did a hidden blade, kind of linking, like you mentioned, to the Ospreay Don Callis story, the hidden blade and the Mamba Splash for a near fall. Then Takeshita came back with a big clothesline and hit the Bastard Driver to get the, actually, no, that was a near fall. TJP hitting a test press. And then he hit the burning, I think called the burning, I forget what it's the burning something. It's his Falcon Arrow to get the win on TJP. And then post-match, Takeshita got on the mic and said that he will defend the title in the Tokyo Dome, and said, "Who is next? Come on and take it." Shingo Takagi comes out with the Never title, and they argue with each other. And then Shingo said, "Wrestle Kingdom, Tokyo Dome," and they're pouring each other's titles. And then Tomohiro Ishii came out by ringside and pointed at both men's. And then today,
so at first, oh, good.
Today we got the official announcement. So January 4th at Wrestle Kingdom, it will be Shingo Takagi defending that Never Openweight title against Konosuke Takeshita. If Takeshita is still champion by Wrestle Kingdom, it will be title for title. And then the winner of that will defend the Never Openweight title against Tomohiro Ishii on January 5th.
Yeah, I'm not liking Shingo or Ishii's chances here. Although, I don't know. Ishii works a lot of AEW, so you just never know. But those are some really, really attractive matches to kind of round out the Tokyo Dome shows. Some shows that were seriously lacking in excitement, and everyone was wanting Takeshita to be involved in the Tokyo Dome events. And it's hard to imagine if he's not going to be in main event matches fighting for top titles against the world champions. From a freak standpoint, it's hard to find much more appealing matches back to back than potentially him and Shingo and him and Ishii. And then obviously we've seen Shingo and Ishii a million times. I really doubt. I mean, I think it's pretty much telegraphed that Shingo's doing the JOB to Takeshita on night one. But
yeah, it's like, why would you do a New Japan versus New Japan match at Wrestle Dynasty?
I'd be so shocked. I think Takeshita's cleaning up both nights, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm glad that this again, this was another thing you could kind of criticize, being like it was shoehorned and it was out of left field, but considering the quality of matches, hard to complain. It is something though where I thought that we were getting a triple threat, so I'm glad we're not getting the triple threat.
Yeah, glad I had two great singles matches. Yeah, those should both be awesome matches on both those nights. And yeah, I can definitely see Takeshita leaving with both the Never title and international title.
Bro, you never know. Like, we might have a new Triple Crown champion because Ishii is probably going to win the ROH world title from Chris Jericho. If he walks in the dome with that belt, triple crown.
Yeah. Couple questions here. Discord Daddy says, how does this year's dome build compare to last year's? I feel there's a bit of doomerism around the build, just feeling like a common thread over the last few years. And then Fraser Ramon had a follow-up to that, says, don't want to steal the pod questions, but I like question one because the build has been bad somehow since maybe Wrestle Kingdom 12, which had a great build and a heartbreaking ending. Been comparing a lot to 2 years ago with the god-awful Okada vs. Jay build, but it's true that every year the build is terrible. At least this year it's only 2 months.
Yeah, I feel like this is a pretty bad build for sure. I don't have much more to say beyond that. I mean, we talk about the issues with booking and the short-sightedness, and I think that they're kind of a slave a bit to their traditions. They've tried to buck that a bit, but there's still the schedule and the business demands that exist. And then now they got this partnership and they're being a little bit overly ambitious trying to do 2 nights. And, it's probably a good idea from a business standpoint because they're probably, I mean, there's no doubt that a few years ago when they were doing the double domes that they were really pocketing and banking a lot of money that way. But you would want, as a fan, you want these builds to be better, and they're just not.
Yeah, I mean, we've already talked about the world title scene, that whole build. Like, yeah, a lot of things. It seems like a lot of stuff's just kind of being thrown together, and it kind of seems like a lot of this wasn't really planned out or mapped out like it was in previous years, and maybe that was the case. I don't know, but yeah, the build does feel weird. I mean, there are going to be some great matches. I'm stoked about this Takeshita Shingo match and potentially Takeshita versus Ishii the next night. Those are great matches. The Junior 4-Way is going to be great. Doki and Despy is going to be great. There's a lot of great matches, but the build overall just feels really weird for the top end. Like, we're in almost the middle of November, and we still don't know for sure that we're getting a Hiromu Naito singles match. It just feels like, the dome's just kind of missing. It's missing that marquee draw match, and it's kind of missing that dream match, which it's probably not going to have on January 4th because so many of the AEW guys are working on the 5th. I mean, Takeshi's working on the 4th, but I don't know how many more AEW guys will work on the 4th, and I feel like we're kind of missing that. Ospreay, Omega, Danielson, Okada, Jericho, Omega level time dream match to be on January 4th. But we will see what continues to happen as we get more announcements for both shows. So that will take us to the main event of this show. We had the NJPW Strong Openweight title match as the champion war-ready Gabe Kidd defending the title against Ichiban Sweet Boy Kosei Fujita, defeating him in 18 minutes and 40 seconds. So we've seen Gabe Kidd in his title run, really trying to make this title more open weight and allowing juniors to challenge for a title. I thought it was a very good, hard-hitting matchup here. The only thing was just, there's a lot of Gabe Kidd, taunting Kenny Omega throughout the match and just kind of really just ragdolling Fujita and kind of taunting a lot. Kind of made Fujita look a little bit weak, I thought, at some points, but they do really build Fujita as this kind of underdog bay face. So there was that element to the match of him having to kind of fight from the bigger opponent and use his speed to try and get the advantage.
I agree with those points, but the thing that I didn't like about it is on the opposite spectrum down the tail. And don't get me wrong, when I say I didn't like it, the match was very good. I think this was still the best match of the night, just in terms of like in-ring action and everything. This was probably the most closely aligned with like the New Japan house style. But the last time that we saw Gabe Kidd, he was up against who was it? Leo Rush.
Yes.
And in the States, I mean, and it felt like he had to hit Leo Rush with everything to put him away. And he kept kicking out. And same thing was happening here. I think that there is maybe like there was, and you can kind of give us the rundown, but it seemed like he was basically having to hit down the stretch everything that he had to try and put away Fujita. And I feel like maybe there's a logic there that if I'm going to go over strong on these guys, the best way for me to do that is to look like a badass killing them, but they keep kicking out. So thereby they are still made to look strong. But there's almost a counter effect where if you're constantly having to do that in your big matches and it's guys that shouldn't be, you know, kicking out of all of that shit, it makes the offense itself look somewhat weak. And then it also has a negative effect on the guy that's having to go through hell to put away a junior like Fujita or a junior like Leo Rush. I would much rather, like you said, where he's not ragdolling them in the beginning. It's more of a competitive effort. And then down the stretch, he beats them definitively, which is probably closer to like the Finlay style of match in some ways.
Yeah. Towards the end here, Gabe Kidd hit a pop-up power bomb and a running knee for a near fall. Then he hit a pile driver for another near fall. And then he hit a jumping pile driver for a near fall. And then eventually,
that's too much. That's what I'm talking about. That's crazy.
And then eventually hits the doctor bomb to get the win. And I think your point definitely it rings true with him getting ready to go against Kenny Omega. It's like it took all of that to put away Fujita. Like you're gonna need a gun then to to beat Kenny Omega.
And you know what? There's nothing wrong with wanting to get your shit in and make the other guy look strong, but maybe just do two. I mean, bro, even two of those things back to back would be a little, and then a third one would be like overkill. But he did like 5 or 6. But if that's really what you're determined to do, maybe just do 2 of those or 3. Like you don't need to do 6. It's just a little bit long in the tooth there. And I don't think it serves his character or the guy he's wrestling to, you know, it's not a credit to them.
Yeah, it's like, all right, you want to give him that fighting spirit moment. Yeah, hit one big move, he kicks out, and then, yeah, you're like, all right, I got to do something bigger. You hit something bigger, you put him away, game over.
My favorite stuff in the match was the fighting spirit stuff, the strike exchanges. These guys really were physical and had a lot of great back and forth in that regard. I mean, the match was still very good overall, and I would recommend it. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just Gabe likes to hit his big shit on people, and he's like, "Fuck you, I'm hitting it all tonight." I don't know what it is, but it's too much.
Yeah, it's like what they did to the I think it was Sho Makato and that multi-man where all Bullet Club War Dogs hit all their moves on that young lion.
Yeah, but except for that one was like that was out of their own choice because they wanted to ragdoll him and embarrass him, and they could have put him away at any time. They chose not to, but here these guys are kicking out of his shit.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
They shouldn't be kicking out all your big offense back to back to back to back. Like I don't know. I don't agree with that personally. I don't think that's good psychology.
Yeah. So then post match. Fujita was getting beaten down by Kidd. Oiwa ran in to make the save. Then Kenta ran in and attacked Oiwa. And then they're ringing the bells, and all 4 men are brawling. And Oiwa got on the mic and sounds like he wanted to challenge Kidd for a match at Wrestle Kingdom. Even though he has a TV title match, so I don't know how that's going to work out.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was for Kingdom or for 1-5 or if that was
maybe Strong Style Evolved, maybe.
I got the feeling it was for Strong Style Evolved.
Yeah.
Personally. That's what I thought we were leading to. So I don't know. And maybe they said that. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe we're tired and we forgot.
Yeah. So that's probably what's coming up for that. So that's that was Fighting Spirit Unleashed. A couple questions here for Death Triangle. As fun as the Fighting Spirit show was, did it feel like a non-consequential show? Most of the major setups for the Dome was in video and could have been done in Japan.
It's not wrong. I do think you could have done a lot of that same stuff just via social media and via, Elon Musk's X. If you really wanted to, just put it out on the web. You didn't necessarily have to have a show to broadcast a lot of it.
Yeah, but I mean, those angles did add some juice to this show because, like we talked about, like there were some good matches, but had there been no angles, like you could have skipped this show and have been totally fine. But the angles, I think, brought some juice to the show, brought the show to a life. It had some talking points. Like people are still talking about Shingo and Takeshita, so like the angles really helped the show get some buzz.
But we've seen so many shows that were like this in similar buildings with a similar production where we've been trained to almost think that it is going to be a meaningful show. And then, so we have that expectation. And then all of a sudden they start inundating us with all these like last minute angles. And you're like, what the fuck? Is this power struggle or is this, what are we doing? Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. One thing I'll let you know, Jeremy, this experiment, it's going pretty well with the phone, but I will tell you, I know we're bumping up to the end of the show here, but got 11%. So if I happen to cut out, now the good news, I didn't have a fully charged phone before we started the show, so now we know for next time. I think we can, I think this might work.
Yeah. Different also asked, do you think New Japan should do less U.S. shows like before and only do 4 big shows outside Japan?
I don't know. I've seen it both ways. I just think whatever makes the most money and is the most entertaining for fans, that's it. But like, I'm not happy with this in between shit. It's got to be one or the other,
Yeah, I thought, the whole thing was, less is more. We're going to make these U.S. shows bigger and better. And they started out that way. Like the first quarter of the year, like Battle in the Valley, Windy City Riot, like some of these U.S. shows were like felt bigger, had you had Ospreay and Okada on the shows. You had Moxley, Naito. Like they seemed like bigger deals, bigger buildings. And then we kind of slowly drifted back to what it always was. And so I think that they need to, if they're going to do it, like do what you said you're going to do and do less shows and make them bigger. But clearly they need to do more, I guess, for money and for booking. So
whatever they got to do, the shit just needs to be better. That's all. I don't care if you want to put it in a state or in a arena and attract all the big stars from your partner promotions to do business. Cool. If you're not going to do that and you're going to put it in these smaller arenas or whatever, or like smaller halls, that's fine too. It just needs to be good. It needs to actually have meaning and have connectivity to the actual show. And it can't have this shindiness stink all over it. It just can't.
Yeah. So that's it for Fighting Spirit Unleashed. So coming up this week, tomorrow, November 12th, we have the Superhero Taiji Ishimori Get Ridiculous pay-per-view on New Japan World from Shinjuku Face. So we have Taiji Ishimori versus ? Daisuke Sakamoto, Jeff Cobb, and Tsuji Ishikawa versus Sho, Taiji Ishimori, and Shun Skywalker. We have a Rumble match with Taiji Ishimori versus ? And then the main event, Taiji Ishimori versus ?
Well, those are only 4 matches. I thought he was doing 5.
Let's see. Maybe one more got announced today, but when I grabbed the card, that was all that was there.
It doesn't matter. It's against ? anyway. So 4 or 5, whatever. They're charging $22 on a US for this pay-per-view. Yeah. To watch Ishimori wrestle 4 or 5 times against unknown opponents. And in theory, I think the idea of the show sounds fun and entertaining. I guess you got to really love Ishimori to be super into this. It might be pleasantly surprising, but I don't know. It's not really up my alley, especially not for $22.
Yeah. All right. So there is the 5th match announced. He's going to be teaming with a guy from Dragon Gate named Kagatore in a mystery tag team match.
More question marks. Nice.
Yeah.
Sick.
And as I pulled that up, they did announce some matches for Strong Style Evolved. So it is going to be Oiwa versus Gabe Kidd for the Strong Openweight title. We're going to have Grizzly Young Vets defending against West Coast Wrecking Crew. Mina versus Johnny Robbie. Matt Vandegrift versus Zane J. Going to have Mercedes Moné defending the Strong title against Suzuki. Shingo and Yota Tsuji against Takeshita and Jack Perry. That's going to be interesting. And then a four-way match, Clark Connors versus Kushida versus Kosei Vegeta versus TJP. We're going to have Leo Rush versus Hechicero. That's new matches announced there for Strong Style Evolved.
There's some good stuff there. One thing I forgot to say earlier, I wanted to mention. What the fuck did Ishii do to deserve to get the winner of those two title matches to challenge for the double title? Like, who did he beat?
He walked out.
Bullshit.
He pinned Chris Jericho last week. That's who he beat.
Some bullshit.
Then also later this week we have Historic Crossover 2, which will be on Sunday, November 17th. So the pre-show tag match, we got Aya Sakura versus and Hanako versus Rena Yagami and Sakaki Kuara. Then the main card will open up. We'll have Cosmic Angels, Sarah Ano and Tam Nakano taking on God's Eye Shuri and Tomioka Inaba. Then we'll have Neo Genesis, Azumi, Mei Serai, and Miyu Amasaki versus Hate, Nami, Rina, and Ruka. Then we're going to have Bolton Ole, Tiger Mask, and Toriano against Callum Newman, Francisco Akira, and Jeff Cobb. Then we're going to have Tanahashi and Taguchi teaming up with stars of Hanan and Saya Ida. And they will take on the Bullet Club War Dogs team of Drilla Maloney and Gabe Kidd. And Hate members Natsuko Tora and Saya Kamatani. Then we'll have the KOPW title match, Great Okan defending against Suzu Suzuki. Then Natsupoi and Taichi versus Clark Connors and Tekla. Then the semi-main event, IWGP Women's title match, Mayu Iwatani will defend against Momo Watanabe. And the main event will be El Desperado and Starlight Kid versus Micah and Zack Sabre Jr. Josh, any thoughts on Historic Crossover?
I looked at the card not too long ago, and most of this wasn't available, so I'm guessing they just kind of announced a lot of it recently.
Yeah, I think yesterday, the full card came out.
There's almost no hype for this show as opposed to the first one, which was relatively, hyped. So, I don't know. I'm not a big Joshi fan, so it's not. I am looking forward to the show, I guess, but at the same time, it's not like if there's anything on there where I'm overly enthused, other than maybe the IWGP Women's title match. And I will let you know, Jeremy, we're down to 2%. There is a very good chance that I am about to, go MIA on this show.
All right. Well, that was it. There's no other news items, and there's a few questions here, but we can push those to next week, and we'll go ahead and.
If you think that's pertinent, or unless you want to cover them, but I am now down to 1%. So regardless of what you decide to do, I need to leave the show.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll
I can't even stick around for the close to say Ichiban.
So we'll go ahead and wrap up here. Next week we'll be back to review Historic Crossover and cover all latest news. Remember, if you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, you can sign up at patreon.com/KIStrongstyle. You can also make a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On X, follow us at KI Strong Style, at Socialsuplex, and at Jeremy Donovan. The same on Blue Sky. Shout out to all of our new Blue Sky followers. Follow us on their same handles. On Facebook, follow us on facebook.com/Socialsuplex and the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. On Reddit, I am the Pro Black Guy, just Keeping It Strong Style. On YouTube, we're at Socialsuplex. Join our Socialsuplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. You can email me, Jeremy@socialsuplex.com, and check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio is by Rich Latta and James Floyd. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. Imps, WWE Adventure with Implications, Matthew Mayer. Wrestling Art with Chris Things, Tone Talk with Ali and Leah. And the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we'll catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts. Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.
Shop early, save big, all month long during Black Friday build-up at Lowe's. Right now, get select pre-lit artificial Christmas trees starting at just $59.98. Don't wait to save. Shop these deals today, in-store or online, because Lowe's knows deals. Discount taken at time of purchase while supplies last. Selection varies by location.